Hello and welcome back to another Nextlander Game of the Year 2022. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro, how are you? Start with you, Brad Shoemaker.
Welcome back to another Game of the Year. We're doing this again.
Yeah, we are. It's the year's over. It's time to celebrate games.
That's right.
Alex, how are you?
No one has ever celebrated video games before, except for us, the one time we did it last year.
That's right.
Now it is time to do it again. We are the only ones who will do this.
Yes, the second annual Game of the Year worldwide in all of human history.
Shocking that no one thought of this before.
I bet people are going to pick it up, start doing it eventually. You know, they'll have something or other.
It'll never take.
There are plenty of games that came out this year, and we are here to celebrate those games. We've got a list made. We've got a couple of lists made. Thanks for joining us. If you're listening to this, there should be over on the Patreon, if you're on the Patreon side of things, a video component to this. If you would like to go check that out, you can go check out patreon.com/Nextlander and check out the video side of things. But we are going to record this as if it were audio only, so if you're listening to the audio, you shouldn't miss too much. Shouldn't. That being said, like any Game of the Year production,
Shouldn't is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
I don't know, man. There's going to be some hot Google Doc action going on here.
There's going to be hot flax for your ass.
I'm going to deface the hell out of this Google Doc as we edit. No, I'm not.
We've got a couple of categories. We're doing this for 2 days. We'll have today and then next week's podcast as well. We'll also have some Game of the Year action. We've got about 5-ish categories we're going to get through and then have our list of Game of the Year for the top 10 and all that stuff. We've got some other additional things in there as well.
Yeah.
Shall we get started, Brad? Yes?
Yeah, the plan is to split this up over 2 weeks.
2 weeks, but 2 days. Yeah. 2 days of recording.
Two podcasts, yes.
Not two full weeks.
We're not doing the 3-week thing like last year.
Yeah, that seemed like more Game of the Year than maybe most people wanted, but yeah, this should be this weekend, next week to get through all this stuff.
And if you're following along with the video, I'm going to be using the Google Docs to follow along. Couldn't take the brightness down on it, but you know, if you're using your TV, I apologize for that if it's buzzing on your TV. Also, we're going to be using the database stuff that we have together for the Nextlander database, which gets its information from the Internet Games database, and that is my excuse to say if the data is wrong, it's probably not our fault.
Blame someone else.
But
also, anybody at Google who works on Docs or Drive or anything out there.
Yeah. Night mode.
We could use a dark mode on desktop.
Yes. All right, let's take it over. I'm going to start by looking at this year in games. I'm just kind of looking at a big old list of games that came out this year, and there were quite a few. I didn't add them all up, but we do have plenty of games to go through for this year. And we've got our first category. Should we just get started out of the gate here?
I say no need to dilly-dally. Let's rock.
It always feels like we need more preamble. Like there's got to be some other housekeeping to take care of, right?
I've excused ourselves from the data. I've talked about buzzing on people's screens, the categories. What else is there to say?
Time to go to work, boys.
There may be spoilers. You will get wet. You may get soaked.
Yes, definitely there will be spoilers, especially within our first category, which is...
I'm just going to get out of the way right here, right now.
Best storytelling.
Yeah.
So best storytelling. Best storytelling is our combined efforts at best story, best characters, best all the things that go into a narrative. Best storytelling, how it's told, the delivery mechanisms, the content of it.
Yeah, I like the move from best story to best storytelling because there's a lot of weird meta stuff that only games can do to convey story, right?
I agree.
Traditional linear passive media cannot.
And, one other bit of housekeeping, if you're just joining us for the first time on Nextlander's Game of the Year, for these categories, we generally don't have to have a decisive winner or consensus between all three of us. We will end up with our favorites for each category. If they overlap, they overlap. But we're not here to tell somebody else their favorite thing is wrong necessarily.
Yeah, I am.
Alex is, and I do
bring it on.
I do it internally and then in the Discord, but I don't do it to his face. So
I think each of us naming our favorite gets our opinion out there just fine without, it doesn't really serve any purpose to butt heads and try to declare some objective winner.
Yes, at least for this. We will at the end of the year or at the end of the document. So far,
end of the biz.
End of the biz. Brad, you want to run down our list of best storytelling nominees?
Yeah, we kind of just informally threw these together, so more games may pop up as we think this over. But here's what we wrote down. Sifu, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, Far Changing Tides, Tunic, Norco, Sopfo. I couldn't bring myself to write out the full title. I had to write Sopfo. Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins. Remember that game?
Okay, yes.
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, Citizen Sleeper, The Quarry. The Quarry. Immortality, Hobbs Barrow, God of War Ragnarok, Atari 50. Pentiment, Somerville, and The Dark Pictures, The Devil in Me.
All right, take The Devil in Me off of there and replace it with Stray.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I weirdly just finished Stray this very previous night.
Okay.
Last night, because I thought I forgot I hadn't finished it. My save file said 4 months ago. I was right at the end, so anyway, yes, the ending of that game is fresh in the mind.
So no huge disrespect to The Devil in Me, but I will say that of the two supermassive stories this year, I feel like The Devil in Me is the most scattershot.
It's a little wonky.
Yeah,
I feel.
I don't think I would. It has story in it. I think both its story and the storytelling so far have not been exceptional.
Yeah, and we haven't finished it yet. I think it sounds like we got about an hour left, but even where we're at, I feel like it's kind of dragging a little bit.
I don't know what conclusion they could come to that would change my mind about it at this point.
The Quarry, however.
Yeah.
Well, let's before we get into this again, we're gonna not go out of our way to do spoilers for this stuff. If it comes up because it is integral to an explanation of it, then we'll go into it. But this is probably one of the bigger spoiler categories if you're watching this, and so heads up, this is the best storytelling.
This is it.
But we're not
going to get any more heads up after this.
We're not going to go out of our way, but stuff is probably going to pop up. The Quarry.
The Quarry.
Brad, you were bringing up The Quarry?
I mean, it's the first supermassive game I've gone all the way through. So maybe that colored my impression, but The Quarry rules.
The Quarry does rule.
It's quite good.
It really does kind of stumble at the finish line with the ending, though.
And we're not just talking about the ending we got, because obviously the one we ran into lost a little bit of context because of a specific character that we ended up getting killed. But also, I've gone back and I've watched some other playthroughs where they did get, like, here's an all-survivor playthrough.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that even with that added information, the ending is still a little abrupt.
Yeah, it's just kind of mechanical. Like, I also have gone back and looked into other possible outcomes, and yeah, it just kind of, it's got that real thrown together Animal House. This person went on to be a senator, this person died horribly, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's so strong right up to the end that you really just want a little more flourish in the wrap-up, but it's still, like, man, the shitty teen slasher writing in that game is so good.
It's really good, and the characterizations are really good, and I think are much more of a standout than generally any of the Dark Picture, like even the best Dark Picture stuff. I feel like maybe stumbles a little more there comparatively. Like, this is much more like Until Dawn, which is to say it is a longer game, it is a more star-studded game, and I feel like they, at least in the first 3 quarters of it, they do a good job of letting you know who these characters are and decide whether they are actually endearing and worth saving or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong one for me, at least.
Yeah, I really like The Quarry. I would not knock it off a list for sure.
Not just yet.
Not.
You know what? I'm gonna say Somerville. I'm just gonna eliminate from this list, though I like it, and it's worth pointing out. It's I like more of what it's trying to do than what it actually does. Yeah, it's like it's not going to make my final here. It's just too messy. It's a little too messy, a little too all over the place. I wish it were a lot tighter in a lot. Not even just the technical parts, just in its storytelling devices. Atari 50 tells a hell of a story,
dude. That's like
this could be near the top
True
for me.
Story.
The structure of these awards is not like what it used to be, where it's like a bunch of jockeying for position to make sure something stays. But if it were, that's probably the horse I would back.
Yes.
Interesting.
Like that's probably the one that I would be like, that has to be a top 3 if we were like brutally trying to reach a top 3.
Documentary storytelling is absolutely storytelling, and it absolutely is it falls under this category.
Dude, and the work they did going out and getting so many of the surviving Atari folks that are still with us, and getting a lot of that stuff documented on video that was just apocryphal before.
And to talk very candidly,
like the drug use.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like fucking, they got a bunch of actual Atari people on the record about the legendary drug use at Atari. Like that is a public service. That is not just like making your product better. That is like contributing to the culture of the medium in a significant way.
You're adding to the canon.
And the narrative timeline way that they arranged all that stuff in that collection is just so masterfully done.
Like, it's simple, but it's really effective at what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, maybe a different category, but I love the way all the timeline stuff looks. Like, it all just looks so 70s.
Yeah.
Like that's just such an amazing product.
So going back to a little bit of something you said before too about certain things that only video games can play, the ability for them to talk about a game and then be able to boot up the game to check it out is also kind of amazing, and a singular thing for an interactive medium where it's like, oh, we're talking about this game. Do you want to try it out? This thing that
it's fucking crazy, man. It is a retro game collection. It is a documentary film. It is a museum because they've got all these, like, they've got business cards and design docs and all kinds of stuff that you can just zoom in at insane resolutions. Like, it's a bunch of stuff all in one, and it's telling a real life story of a company, not a story in a game, but still. And
it's an important story because it's one that I feel like has, to a certain degree, kind of fallen by the wayside as the Atari brand and its family of products have gotten further and further into distant memory, and the company itself has become a weird host for licensed products and NFTs and other weird bullshit that they're trying to do. It's just like, Atari is the one that isn't around anymore, but I feel like having this here and having this presentation, it's a great way to experience that history and make it engaging.
It sets a bar for how they should be done. Yeah. I mean, we talk about video games of like, in terms of, hey, what was the first, cover shooter, or what had first mantling, or what had this. This sets up a way that I don't know if you can go back to just a big list of movies and do these anymore. Like this, it's
like they put out another collection this year in that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection, and that was a good one too. Like really exhaustive, but it didn't have this kind of thing to it, and it's going to be really hard going back to something else that doesn't have this kind of presentation to it.
Yeah, I mean, like talking to those guys, but also it's just evident from the evolution of their products that like Digital Eclipse has been building to this for some time. Like they've been doing the archival work. They had just never done the sorting and presentation work that they finally did here.
Yeah. Which
was, instead of dumping 3,000 pieces of scanned document into just a big bonus menu, to like lay it out in a way that's very digestible and again, tells the story. Like, I've said this before, literally nothing would make me happier in all of video games than for this thing to be so successful that they're just like buried in requests from other companies asking for the same treatment.
Right.
Like, do this for everybody. Like, I would love them to have to like spin off a whole new business unit or company to handle all the work that must be pouring in, right? From Capcom and Konami and Nintendo and everybody. Like, please.
I would hope so.
We'll see. But man, like it makes me extremely excited for whatever they've got next.
Let's not take that one off for now.
Whoa, no. I mean, that's
definitely not
highlighted for me.
Let me ask about who put Sifu on here.
I did not.
I put Sifu on here just because I thought the mechanism was kind of interesting for how they're trying to do it. Whether it's successful or not, it's probably worth talking about.
It's novel. The thing is, I think the story is kind of what lets that game down. In the sense that, I mean, Sifu is genre like tribute. Like it is a tribute to, like classic Chinese martial arts films and revenge stories. And the problem is it doesn't really have much of a story of its own to tell. It is by and large just hey, your master was killed, go get revenge. And as much as it does get a little bit weird kind of in the margins with like some of the supernatural powers some of the characters seem to have, and kind of the overall vibe and aesthetic, I think the actual story is incredibly rote and not that satisfying once you get to the end of it.
What do you think about the aging stuff and the way that you kind of are on this vengeance quest throughout your whole life?
I think it's a really novel concept, and I think that the way it plays out in the game is cool, but I think that is kind of its one storytelling gimmick that is interesting.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It also, I think the mechanics collide with the vision a little bit in some places. So yeah, I don't think it would be on my pick. So it's gone. It's
not
gone
one
already.
I would go to bat for.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Just poof.
It's gone. Let me talk about Far Changing Tides here.
Okay.
I really like Far Changing Tides. I think it is another interesting entry in the Far. It was Far Lone Shores.
I believe that's right.
Is the other one?
Lone Sails.
Lone Sails.
That's right.
Yes.
It's not going to be my pick here. I like those games a lot. There's no dialogue. It's all storytelling throughout the environmental stuff. It's kind of a left to right scroller in a lot of ways, or right to left. And it's got there's some interesting things it does with its storytelling, which again are very unique to video games, and that kind of push it beyond just, hey, I'm just going to tell you this tale, this good story. But there are stronger entries on here for storytelling, but I want to see more of these games. I really enjoy them.
Yeah,
and I think
you've liked both of them. I know.
I really like both of them, and the kind of things they do that only video games can do, like perspective changes or mechanics changes that help tell a story, are interesting. Kind of like, without spoiling Far, similar to things that like Brothers did, where it's like, oh, okay, these mechanic changes that tell the story. It does things like that. How'd you guys feel about Tunic?
I like Tunic a lot.
Yeah.
I think I fell off of it more for gameplay mechanics reasons than story. I mean,
the meta narrative is really interesting.
Yeah, the stuff with the instruction booklet that you're piecing together is amazing, but I have to qualify that statement not knowing how it comes together.
Let me just say it is until it isn't. It is.
Okay.
I found Tunic to be kind of amazing until I felt like it was asking way too much of me. And I feel like I was not necessarily alone in that sentiment. It just got like, hey, calm down, Tunic. Relax. I don't have this kind of time. I'm just going to go look this up.
Yes, if it's getting to like Fez level of this is inscrutable.
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah. I mean, did it ever pay off for you? Does it ever is it all just set up? Because it's extremely vague. It's extremely suggestive about what's going on with the manual. They don't really.
I think that
I got pretty close to the end of it and didn't really see any kind of resolution for where it was going.
I think it does. I think it does have a satisfying conclusion. But again, I think the things it asks you to do in the service of this participatory storytelling are tough towards the end and very time consuming. So yeah, I really like Tunic a whole lot. It might not be on my best storytelling number one.
It's a game I think I admired more than I really enjoyed. Like I did have fun with it, but I did not feel compelled to finish it. And
yeah, they're oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I think that part of it is it's the same thing that Fez had, where it's like once I started to see what Fez was doing, I found myself kind of wanting to detach from it, because those are the kinds of things that I find myself tending to admire more than I enjoy. That kind of puzzle solving, that kind of meta narrative.
There are some amazing things about Tunic. I would kind of like to see how it wraps up, but
yeah.
Every time I went back to it, just the mechanics of the combat and stuff were just kind of off-putting, and
it's a really lovely construction.
Yes, I love the look at. Well, there's another category to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk. We're not done talking about Tunic today.
Who wants to talk about something else here? Yeah, Alex.
Okay, so I don't think Stray is going to make the top here, but I did want to give it a highlight because I think that the background story of Stray and its universe is pretty interesting. Like it's not super inventive sci-fi, but it is really good. Like, hey, what happened to this world? Why are all these robots here? What's going on? And I think a lot of that lore that you end up picking up throughout that game is actually pretty good. My beef with that game, the ending. And it's not because I think that it's like the story is bad or that it has a bad turn or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a spoiler. I'm just giving you the heads up right now.
Mm-hmm.
You never meet up with your cat friends again.
Oh, well, I felt like that was implied.
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean,
the only thing I wanted was for him to find his friends or her find her friends again.
Oh, I just took that. I mean, there's like the shot. There's only a shot of you leaving the city, and it's literally just like walking up some stairs, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like you get separated from the other cats at the beginning, and I feel like the cat's journey in that game is very transitory, right? It just kind of flits through this city and does a bunch of shit that a cat shouldn't be able to do.
Yes.
Like they give the cat intelligence and agency in a weird way, which is kind of, it's part of the weird charm of that game. But
yeah.
like, I mean, the kind of thrust of the story is the cat was just passing through, but in doing so, it completely changed life for every other being in that city, right?
Yeah.
Like the cat was happy outside. Or, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like, the robots are constantly talking about, like, what's it like outside? Like, we're never going to get outside. We have to get outside. The cats have just been chilling outside for who knows how long. Right?
Yeah. Doing their
fine.
thing.
Like, outside is fine now, in contrast to whatever it was that drove people into these walled cities in the first place. But, so yeah, it's like no big deal for the cat to just get out of the city and get back outside. But like, I was kind of saving this for the best look category, but that moment at the end where you look out that giant window and the top of the city opens up.
Oh, yeah.
And like, or there's even that cutscene where like the light, actual sunlight shines down on all the robots and stuff. Like, I thought that was a nice moment. I thought.
I think visuals is probably where I feel more strongly about this game than I do in narrative. Again, and this is a pet peeve. It's a personal thing. Is all I wanted was for that cat to meet up with its friends again. That's all. I'm not mad at them for telling their own story the way they want to. This is a purely personal grudge that I have.
I don't know where it would come up. I really like the way the robots are characterized.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll save it for the look stuff. Like, I think like they do a lot with the screen as face thing on the robots.
Yeah, the game,
some stuff like that.
It has some good personality.
Yeah, good personality. I'm kind of my thing with Stray and some of the storytelling is I feel like it's, to me, a lot of the world building is kind of front loaded in that kind of first city where you have a lot of fetch quests to build out the lore of the city, and then once that more actiony stuff and the stealth stuff kicks in, a little less. And so I was always looking for more.
Yeah, you do hit that last big city, Midtown.
Yeah,
the very neon, like, oppressive area.
Even that, I felt like
there's a good bit there.
Didn't have as many like lore collectibles. Also, the little scrambled data things felt a little easy to miss, and I wanted those to fill out because the backstory is a lot of this game. Like, you want to know what happened to these what happened to humanity. Where is everyone? And I feel like it's a little missable in spots.
It's pretty vague. Or yeah.
But yeah, I didn't mind it for sure.
I'll take it off.
Okay.
It's definitely not like the top 3 here or anything.
It is
but there's some good narrative in there.
So hard to not feel like we're building a top 3 list. It is like hard to break out of the boundaries here.
Well, because I mean, again, I think in the end, there's only going to be like 2 or 3 games here I really feel that strongly about as far as this stuff goes. But you know, like for instance,
yes,
Immortality is a really interesting one. And I think that, there's a good argument for it in terms of, especially with the way Sam Barlow's last few games have been. Mechanically, the way you uncover the story, I think is really fascinating. And I think the best realized vision of that kind of mystery solving that Barlow and his teams do. But the actual story of Immortality is cool and kind of weird and surreal.
Definitely weird.
But I don't think completely coheres in a way that I felt 100% great about.
I might keep this on here for the mechanics of the storytelling.
Yeah.
I think they are novel and interesting enough where I've never quite seen it executed as well. I feel like I've seen it tried, but not executed as well. The story is a little too dangly and it leaves a little too much in, I think, the interpretation of the player for my taste. But the mechanics of how you navigate this story, it's built upon the other games in this, I don't know, in this oeuvre,
Is it that open to interpretation? Because I feel like it was pretty... I mean, it's not explicit in that they aren't just literally telling you, here's what happened.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like the nature of Marissa Marcel, and sort of the beings that exist within the framework of this story they're telling, like, it's pretty firm kind of about, like, what Marcel's story is and how she came to be and why she's in these movies.
Yes. But I think some of the more supernatural stuff I feel like was maybe a little more open-ended.
Okay.
I
feel like there's a pretty firm like explanation for what that thing is, but but maybe that is actually just my interpretation. I don't know.
Could be, or maybe I didn't get the whole story. It is very possible. You get different exit points throughout the game as well.
Yeah, it's non-linear in the way that, like, her story and the other game, which I always forget the name of because it was the one I liked the least, like Telling Lies. Like, it's you get these clips and you can get them in pretty much any order, and the way you pull them out from Immortality is by finding highlights within the footage of these 3 films and also behind the scenes footage and TV appearances and other things involving the lead character Marissa Marcel. And like, the way you kind of tease out some of the more under the surface elements is that the controller just starts rumbling during certain points, and you have to kind of rewind the footage using the control stick or whatever, interface you're using. And you will find hidden footage within that existing footage that kind of tells you a little bit more about what's going on under the surface. And I do think mechanically that is really interesting. And it took me a while to actually figure out what it was it wanted me to do with that stuff. But once I did, like, it all kind of came together for me. I just think that the story itself is a little, like, Lynchian without actually getting at the core of what makes Lynch stuff super interesting.
Okay. I think that's a fair critique of it.
Yeah. Just mechanically, though, it feels like they actually took FMV and turned it into a video game.
Totally.
Compared to, like, the long history of FMV games where the actual gameplay is just like some shitty puzzle. Yeah. And then you get to watch another clip. Like, this is a game where the actual footage is the game and is used to make up the game, right?
Yeah.
Like they integrated the FMV into the gameplay in a much more, like, tight kind of creative way.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Super cool.
But it is definitely one of the best executions of that I've seen. So I'd keep it on here for now.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. I wouldn't cut it just yet.
Man, I don't...
Sapfo, you're on Sop. I could see your cursor on
Stranger
Sapfo.
of Paradise.
It's a wild thing.
Fuck, man, I don't know. It's so stupid.
If this was the fuck man, I don't know category, it would win in a walk.
This game is, dude. I mean, enough jokes have been made about killing chaos and all that stuff. But God, the writing is just so batshit ridiculous in that game.
And, like, I think it does have a sense of humor about itself. Like, as much as the characters are treating everything with deathly seriousness, I don't know that the developers are.
Yeah, there's a self-awareness, I think.
Yeah. It's so much.
But I haven't gone nearly as far, maybe, as you, Brad. I think definitely not as far as you in this game. So I don't know if I even saw where things are headed.
Yeah, I didn't know if the game is actually good enough to warrant that. I mean, I did kind of get weirdly into the game, but it is very much it's a very Team Ninja technical action game with a ton of, job leveling up and stuff like that. So you kind of have to be down for that.
Is it going to be in our top 3?
Probably. No.
Okay.
Probably not. No, it's not. But the fact that we can even talk about it here is
it's pretty
mind-blowing.
It's something.
I Hobbs Barrow, I think it's a lot of fun. It's an adventure game. I put it on here because I love adventure games. I want to call out an adventure game real quick here. Fun story, I think. A little, it's an elder god-ish thing, kind of like taking place in a sleepy kind of hamlet. Like watch out. But I don't think it's not doing anything too novel in its both in its story and its storytelling and its approach to it. So we can take it off. But the Excavation of Hobbs Barrow is a fun tale in a kind of known package, let's say. But it is a good one of those. What else is on this list?
There's 3 on here that are basically my 1, 2, and 3 games of the year.
I bet I could guess them.
Can you?
I think I could.
All right, give me the guesses.
Okay, it's Norco, Citizen Sleeper, and Pentiment.
You are 100% correct.
Okay.
And none of the 3 of them are mechanically doing a lot with storytelling that I feel like hasn't been done before, but they are very firmly the most engrossing stories that I played this year, and they are that way for different reasons. Citizen Sleeper is basically a visual novel that has some light game mechanics around it. But it is, I think, one of the best examples this year of building an atmosphere around something like that. Mm-hmm. In that game, you play as a sleeper who is essentially a dead person that has come back to life inside the body of an android.
Are they dead or are they like indentured? I thought
indentured, dead. They're either way. Their body is not around.
I thought their body's on like ice and their consciousness has basically been transferred.
I think that might be correct. Okay. But you're definitely you definitely owe money to a company somewhere.
Yes.
And you're on this space station that is all but abandoned, save for, a bunch of kind of workers and various people who have kind of taken up residence in there and kind of tried to turn it into a little society. Like there are crime syndicates and various forces that all kind of combine here. And this game is really strong as far as atmosphere and character work. Mm-hmm. I feel like all the characters you meet are pretty memorable. We'll talk about it more in music, but there's some really great soundtrack behind everything. And the writing is really strong. Like, I think the individual character writing and also the amount of choice you get in terms of like where you want to end up in the story is really good.
Yeah, and they do some pretty interesting thing with their storytelling mechanics. It's again, it's not too novel, but they basically have a dice mechanic where you can fail checks and stuff will happen, and there are branching paths and many multiple endings, places to exit the story. So they do add more than your typical just click onto the next piece of dialogue. There is a decent amount of interactivity and choice to be had in it.
But it's a reader. Like all 3 of these games that I'm talking about here are primarily readers, and this was a weirdly good year for those. But Pentiment is a game about storytelling more than anything else. This is the Obsidian game, and it is kind of done like the visually sort of like the old religious illuminations, like the classic sort of religious texts and woodcuts and drawings, and the story itself is about someone, and at least initially is about someone who is doing that kind of art and that kind of work at the behest of wealthy benefactors, and is hanging out in this monastery in this town of Tassing. And the thing you start to learn over time is that the story itself is not as much about Andreas, who is the character you meet at the beginning, but more about the village of Tassing and its history and the stories that get passed down through the ages as time goes on. Like there are murders, there's mystery, there's a lot of intrigue, but like how that develops over time changes perspective both on the amount of time that passes between sections and who the characters are that are currently taking up the mantle of furthering that story.
Yeah, this one I'll say I haven't finished it yet. I feel like I'm extremely close to the end, but I couldn't get through it in time. I really like what it's doing. The pacing can be a little tough sometimes, and the kind of wandering around and this is maybe more a mechanical thing than the storytelling thing, but the feeling like you need to explore every part of the map or you might miss a critical piece of information can be a little frustrating given the pace of the game.
That's exactly what I would say too. Absolutely.
I found myself like not doing that for the most part. Like I looked at this, I spent some time thinking about like, okay, where do I want to go next? Like what do I want to spend my time on here? And I feel like just by kind of like listening and paying attention to like what seems like the critical stuff, I managed to find the things I was supposed to find. But this isn't a game that is really about like, you are trying to hit the right beats to make sure you get the exact right story.
No,
you know?
Definitely not.
Like they're like missing some things, I think is actually kind of key to the way it wants to tell his story, because again, some of these stories are being passed down through people with decades sometimes in between what is actually taking place. And like not having all the information sometimes I feel like is actually part of what they want for this story.
For sure. You are. It took me a while to come to grips with you are not here to do the perfect run. You're not here to be at this all-knowing character player in the game. You are kind of, they put you in a world where you're kind of as ignorant as some of the other characters about the goings on. And when you have to make a choice, you're going to have to do it off of limited information, which is really, really hard as a player character when you're deciding big choices and being like, I don't really know. I wish I had found out more information, but I'm out of time. My blue bar is only halfway. It means I'm going to fail this check on this, should you go to high school or whatever? And you're going to not go because I didn't say the right thing.
But in a weird way, it kind of feels like it's subverting some of those expectations you tend to have about games like this, in the sense that, yes, you do get these role-playing mechanics where you can kind of decide what your character's background is, but, there are also events that take place that you think are like, okay, this is going to influence, I'm going to get the right ending, I'm going to get the best outcome here. And then it's just kind of like, no, actually, like, yes, you made a decision, but in the end, ultimately what was going to take place was going to take place, and all you can do is just kind of move on to the next section.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really like Pentiment a lot. I just, again, my quibbles might be a little bit more in the mechanics nature of it, of some of the tracking the quests, some of the traveling. I find it, I guess the best word is tedious. I find some of it to be a little too tedious to... It feels like sometimes a chore to pick the controller up and be like, okay,
That's pretty pointed, but I have to agree.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like it, but like even as I've been playing it this week to try and get finished with it, it's like, oh my gosh, come on, do I have to run back all the way to here to go try and get information? And then I run back there and it's like, oh my gosh, this person just saying hello, and then I have to run all the way back. So sometimes stuff like that.
That's very much where I ended up with it too, and then maybe that's entirely a me problem, but I just found myself not really having the patience for that.
Yeah,
after a while, I enjoyed the time I spent with it, but yeah, that did start to kind of drag for me too.
That said, I think it's super cool, and I would keep it on this list. It might be the one I come back to in the end.
And the last one on this list for me is Norco, which, say, of all the games on this list, in terms of taking big fucking swings, this one swings for the fences, like, in just about every way. Despite the fact that it does feel, at least in the early goings, like a pretty understated and moody game, some of the places the story goes are absolutely buck wild. Talk about a sense of place, too.
This one might be my favorite. I don't know. I'm like, this one's up there for me.
This is my favorite.
Norco is weird and fun and sad and depressing. It's just really well done. If this were best story, this would absolutely be up there because I just like what it's telling.
If it was wildest story, again, it would win in a walk.
Like Norco is kind of amazing.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, this game takes place in Norco, Louisiana, which is a real place, but the version of it in the game is a sort of alternate futuristic vision of this current place, which Norco is a refinery town. It is near New Orleans. It is a place where a lot of oil refineries are, and it's a fairly depressing place from what I've gathered talking to people who have lived there or been there. But here, there is also a cyberpunk element to it, where, there are androids, there are people uploading their consciousnesses to hard drives. There's a lot of, buck wild, spiritual stuff happening that also feels tied into some alien fucking prophecy shit. I don't know. I could spend an hour just trying to go through all the different story beats that happen here.
Is it the Jeremys? Who are what's the cult?
The Garretts.
The Garretts, yeah.
There is a cult of what appear to be ex-Best Buy employees, or at least people that have taken up residence in an old Best Buy. They're all wearing the blue shirts, but they are a religious cult of just wayward dudes that have nothing to do, and they all take the name Garrett.
And then,
pretty good.
Who's your detective friend?
Oh, what is that guy's name? He's such a piece of shit. He's my favorite character.
He's the best character. And then at some point, I don't know if you did this, but you could have him put clown makeup on because he wanted
Yes.
and then he's just got clown makeup on.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
The characters in this one are incredible, especially that guy. That guy is maybe the best rendered scumbag I've seen in a video game in a long time. Yeah. I loved him. And he was the character that made me sad there was no voice acting in this game. That's my one.
He definitely has a voice in my head for sure.
Oh, yeah. I can hear him.
He's good. Norco's fantastic.
The ending goes buck wild in a way that is extremely messy. But I really admire that they just did not pull back for it at all.
And again, multiple endings.
Yes.
Not that branching, I think, but there are multiple. I think you can get them all in one if you reload.
Yeah.
I really like Norco a lot.
Yeah, Norco is my favorite 100%, and the one I will fight hardest for to be on this list.
All right. Well, I mean, it's on here. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea. We're each here to pick our favorite. So
yeah, that's my favorite.
So you've named yours.
Yep.
I guess
talking through those helped me because I wasn't quite sure, but I do think. I mean, Norco's my best game, but I do think it is the best storytelling this year.
Okay, so if Alex is gone with Norco, Vinny, do you think Citizen Sleeper or Pentiment?
No, because Norco's up there for me as well, and not that it's an either or for Norco or Citizen Sleeper or Pentiment, but I mean, if I'm going to just go down my list quickly here, it's going to be either Norco, Atari 50, the Quarry might be up in there. I think those are mine. So we can start. You can knock those off for me in terms of my choices.
Okay.
Another thing we can knock off is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Yeah.
While I think it's a fantastic version of that.
I mean, I have to salute them. When they said they were putting out Stanley Parable again with new content, I was like, I mean, maybe this was not fair to them. I was just like, more of that game, sure. I don't know if you need that, but sure. But then actually playing it and seeing what they did, making the new content about the Stanley Parable and its reception,
very good.
And everything is exactly what they should have done if they were going to make more Stanley Parable.
I would be very happy if somebody wants to put this on this list to keep it on this thing because I think it's really fun and great.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the fucking GameSpot review of Stanley Parable is in that new content. It's incredible. Giant screenshot of it.
And there's I think Destructoid stuff in there too. There's a bunch of it's very. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good reminder of how great Stanley Parable is. Yes. And what a tough follow-up, hard to do again.
Yeah, it's cool that they did that. They did a much better job with it than I preemptively gave them credit for. It's not the thing I would pick here, but I think it does deserve recognition.
I'm going to God of War and Horizon Forbidden West, I think, tell... All right, God of War, I think, tells an interesting story. I'm not as into it as I was the God of War. I keep saying original God of War, but you know what I mean. 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
The previous game.
I think this one is a little less novel or interesting. It's really hard to kind of come at a fresh setting in a sequel. So that's got that against it. I also think the characters that are in this are not don't go as interesting a place as the first one. I think they do really...
I think the performances are better than the writing.
The writing is okay, and the performances are great. I think the dwarves are fantastic, and the story that is told there is actually one of my favorites of the entire 2018 and this one. But there's some other stuff they get into. I don't dislike it. I just think it's not going to rise to be my favorite thing of this year if I had to put my name next to it. So God of War Ragnarök, I think, is very good. It's not going to be my favorite on this list. Horizon Forbidden West is mostly above average, and I think the ending of that is where the very end of that is where I think it really kind of sets up for more Horizon in an interesting way. And I don't necessarily need to go into it because it's just basically spoiling for my sake here at that point, but it sets things up in, I wouldn't say a really awesome way, just in a, oh my God, this is what we're doing next way. Like that's you okay.
Do you mean it's not awesome for the characters and what they're going to have to deal with, or not awesome in that you didn't feel like it was satisfying, or like not awesome for your story consumption, or not awesome for the characters?
Trying to think how to answer that. It's definitely not awesome for the characters because they have a lot to deal with, and it's an impending doom situation. So it is just okay. Everybody knows the kind of the Forbidden West leap in this one, right? Of like, oh gosh, these people are coming back, right? Like that's like not spoilers. That is kind of implied, right?
You mean the kind of just the basic setup?
Yeah, basic setup.
They take a while to get there. I'm planning to try to get through the other fucking 50 hours of this game over the break, but I will give them credit for making the inter-tribal kind of warfare and strife and political stuff way more interesting in this one than it was in the first one.
Yeah.
Or maybe the first one just didn't tell that stuff very well, or not. I didn't find it very engaging there, but here are the warring kingdoms and stuff like that. Scars of past conflicts type stuff I thought was much better handled. And they, it's like 10, 12 hours, depending on how much time you spend in that first valley before you even get to the, here's what's actually going on stuff. So I'll salute them for, sorry, this is my little interjection, and then you can finish. I'll salute them for the present day, warring nations stuff being more interesting. Also, like you just said, not really a spoiler, like it's in the trailers, but the far zenith people, the space billionaire types coming back and being a factor in the story is a thing that was floated before this game came out, of like, oh, what if they did that? That would be crazy. And I was just like, fucking come on. Like, yes, that would be crazy. There's no way they're going to do that. They totally did that.
So,
and that first cutscene, like my jaw was on the floor when that big door opens and you see them in silhouette with their big, creepy future organic robots, but not because I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? It was because I was like, oh God, they did it. Like they actually went there.
They pulled the trigger.
I could not, just like this, wow, this just officially got ridiculous.
So to kind of piggyback on that, the things I do like about it, and it's no surprise because I feel like it's taking its beats from one of my favorite series kind of ever in my game playing history, is it starts doing very Mass Effect style things of, all right, go gather your team for this kind of extermination event that is going to happen. You need to stop the Reapers, let's say, right, from coming, and then you have a home base and you're gathering team members, you're doing loyalty missions, you're doing all of this stuff. It is spread out over the course of a lot of side quests that can be daunting in the course of the game, but then wraps up in, and there are some great characters in the course of that storytelling. It's actually it's really engaging for me. It can get muddied in with the sides, the minor side stuff. The major side stuff gets muddied in sometimes, where you're like, I want to do everything, and that could be overwhelming. It's not.
I'll defend myself, and I guess you as well here. I assume you have the same tendencies. Like, yes, we both are the want to do everything types.
Yeah,
but also, there are like major good weapons hidden behind side quest completion and stuff like that. Like you'll do a random side quest that wasn't that great from a story perspective, and then they'll give you like a purple bow at the end of it, like a unique bow. It's like there are gameplay incentives as well to do all those quests that are not amazing. So,
but even I would say for me personally, usually the narrative stuff is still interesting enough to flesh out some of that world, aside from the gameplay benefits. I think it's very good. I think it was engaging for the most part, if not a little drawn out or a little long. It has weak points in it where, especially in the beginning, there is a lot of reluctance by Aloy to have anybody go with her, and it starts getting a little repetitive with I'm going out on my own. Like, okay, we're not coming with you. I'm going out on my own.
It's like, oh, she's sneaking out in the middle of the night again.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end, again, by the end, when you finish everything and you wrap it up, you have fleshed out more of this, not the land mass, the world, Earth, what is going on Earth, which is cool because I feel like there's some isolation in the first one. You're like, what happened to the rest of the world? And you do flesh out more of that in a great way, but you do flesh out more of what is going on with Far Zenith too, and maybe why they are doing their motivations and what's happening, which is the thing I'm not going to go into here, but is pretty good. It's not going to be my favorite for this list. Okay. So unless it's somebody else's, it's probably I would leave it on there in case we come up with a thing, but it's not going to be my favorite.
Yeah, well, I think we should focus down to our favorites here. So I will shout out to Katalo. If we were doing a best new character, Katalo, the warrior who lost his arm and is kind of having to grapple with like being from an extremely warlike or a very violent society and feeling like he no longer has a place because he can't fight because he lost his arm.
Yes.
And like how bitter he is about it and how well the actor delivers that.
He's awesome.
I found him really entertaining and like the performance was just top notch there.
He's great. His story wraps up very well. Also, there's like I said, the characters in it are kind of awesome. I'm not sure how far you've made it into his story, but he's got a pretty satisfying.
I've become aware of where he goes.
Okay,
sounds interesting.
It's good.
Still lose to LeBlanc and Norco though.
Elden Ring. How are you feeling about?
So, Elden Ring's messy. It's a From game that's trying to tell a story. It's its stuff is baked behind lore. It's a little more accessible than maybe some other stuff. I personally really like it. I watched lore videos and I went through the whole bit. I bought the dang first part of the strategy guide just because I want more Elden Ring lore and all of that stuff, but it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to follow. But it's fun.
Is it the right kind of a lot?
Yeah, for me it is.
I think it's interesting. Like despite the fact that I did not get that deep into Elden Ring, I sure did do a lot of reading up on Elden Ring and what was going on there. And it goes some places. It has some ideas. It has some thoughts about this universe and the world and all that. And I don't know. I feel like the thing I always admire about From games is that they get deep into the lore and the storytelling, around the fringes, maybe the actual main thrust of the quest is not necessarily as interesting as all the rich detail behind the scenes. But I feel like there has never been more rich detail behind the scenes than what they do here. Though I'm sure the Dark Souls people are yelling at me right now. That's fair. That's totally fair. I understand.
Yeah, it's my favorite of these games. I don't know what you want to classify these games as. I wouldn't just call them.
It's mine too.
From games.
It's the only one I've ever really played.
They have done. People have done the From games now, but it's my favorite of them. They need to name people more unique things because it's a little confusing with
a little bit Saruman there.
Come on, you telling me the Dung Eater does not stick in the mind?
No, that's a great one.
Unfortunately, the Dung Eater does stick in the mind, and actually what the Dung Eater does is just really horrible and despicable, but all the Radagons and
more horrible than eating all the dung?
More horrible than eating all the dung.
I maybe this pays off later, or or more the point, maybe they subvert it or do something new with it. Like the first time I watched the intro movie, it felt just a little too Dark Souls to me. Maybe that was intentional on their part. Maybe there is some twist to that, but like the kind of the slightly overwrought, like here's the list of the big bads, the fantasy big bads you need to go kill. Just very reminiscent of what they've done before.
It is different a little bit, but you got to get into it more to really find those differences than like here are the 5 kings that you're going to go, or the 5 whatever you're going to go kill. I mean, I mean, it's really big boss fights. I mean, that's what this game is.
Yeah.
And this one has a lot of sub bosses too, maybe too many. But yeah, I mean, Alex, you saw me get the endings.
Yeah.
That one with the frenzied flame was pretty messed up and pretty good.
Yep.
And
they're good messed up endings. I will give them that.
And you got to meet the two fingers and all that stuff, and that was real dumb. I still think I'm pointing at Norco and maybe Atari and possibly Quarry on this one. So
okay, all right. Why don't we? Do you want to maybe take our first break real quick before we come back and wrap this up?
Yeah, we could take a quick break on best storytelling. Horizon's no longer on here, but I'm going to give a shout out to Alva, who is my favorite character from Horizon. And before we go, I think we can get rid of God of War Ragnarok, so we have a cleaner list when we come back.
I'm clean with that. I'm good with that.
Should we leave Stanley on here for when we come back?
For now, yeah, we can talk through this stuff.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back in just a little bit with more of best storytelling. All right, we are back, and we are still in best storytelling here. Currently on the list, we have Elden Ring, Norco, the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, The Quarry, Immortality, and Atari 50, the Anniversary Celebration.
Yeah, and Alex has already gone to the mat, gone to bat. What's the metaphor here for Norco?
Either of those works. I think gone to bat for. We'll go with it, but yeah, it's Norco.
Okay. So I guess we've talked through pretty much every game here.
Yeah.
I don't narrow it.
These are tough. So, we started with a list of our favorites, to be fair. Let's say this again. The stuff we had on here were games we thought were very good. So as they've winnowed down on this list, we have let go of games we already thought were good. This is tough.
Got to commit, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at these games. Atari 50 is strong for me. It's very, very strong. Norco, extremely strong. Immortality is more, I think, mechanic than substance. And I think also The Quarry is just a lot of fun with its story. I think for me to go would be Stanley Parable and probably Elden Ring to take it down. I don't know if you have strong feelings about either of those.
No, I mean, like I said, I think Stanley Ultra Deluxe is very clever.
Yeah,
it would not win for me. It's between The Quarry and Atari 50.
The Quarry and Atari 50. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like Immortality probably also is not going to make it for you.
Probably not going to make it. I mean,
okay.
So currently now we have Norco for best storytelling, Quarry for best storytelling, and Atari 50. Alex has flagged Norco as something that is staying on this list for Alex. So yes. Alex's pick is Norco.
I'm done. I did my thing.
Yeah.
I'm
torn.
It's all caps for Norco, right?
It is all caps.
Okay. I am torn between the Quarry and Atari 50. I'm like deciding in real time here.
Yeah, I mean, all three of these have a.
They're just doing different things, obviously, but they have extreme merits in their favor.
Like I was like very eager for those Quarry streams every time they came around. By about the halfway point, I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to get back to that game." And then I turned around and started playing it with my girlfriend after we finished it. That ending is a real bummer, though.
It's kind of the one knock against it for me.
Yeah, it's rough.
Especially considering I feel like Until Dawn did have like a slightly better version of that kind of ending. Maybe it's just something about the way it was paced out at the end. I don't know.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the game just feels like it's so well done. I think I got to go Atari 50 for me. Like, I know it sounds so highfalutin to call a game like an accomplishment or whatever, but like, I just don't think I haven't seen that before in a video game product.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like it feels weird to call that thing a game because it's not quite a game in a traditional sense. It contains a lot of games. But I don't know.
I mean, it's also a way they figured out a way to do documentary storytelling in the context of a game.
Yeah, and I love documentaries, and like for that to kind of manifest in video game form is pretty awesome. And like nobody's getting younger, like we talked about, like some of those Atari folks are already gone, and so
it's amazing.
Yeah, getting those stories down, and some of them are fairly emotional while they still can, and in the form that they did is just like it's extremely meaningful to me, and I got to give it up for that game.
I respect it.
I love Norco. I gotta go with Norco. I gotta.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta. I think
Goodbye,
I put my
goodbye, Quarry.
Goodbye, Quarry. Our best storytelling picks of the list, taken down from a bunch of fantastic games telling fantastic stories in fantastic ways. We are down to Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, is Brad's number one pick in best storytelling, and Norco is the pick for Alex and for me, Vinny. Let me say this. If you're listening to this, go check out the Atari 50, the anniversary celebration.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm like, please spend money on this.
Yes.
Even if you don't think you care about Atari, because let me tell you right now, I don't give a fuck about Atari hardware. That is they did some really great work on that thing.
Yeah, like I said this on the main podcast a couple months ago too, but I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, the 2600 was the first console I played. Like, I do have some emotional attachment to that stuff, but not in the way that I am attached to like old Nintendo stuff or X, Y, and Z. You know, like my interest here is a little more academic, a little more just historical. But even then, like, it's just told so well. Like it's they humanize it very well. You know, like it's a story anybody can appreciate, even if you don't think you're into Atari stuff.
It's also, I think, a story of, again, we've gone through how it's interesting and novel in the way it presents it, but it's also a story, I think, that is a bygone era of game development. There's just too much money and too many interests in game development at this point.
It's so crazy. Listen to them talk to, like,
it's a little
Howard
slapdash, like the whole...
It will never be like that again.
Talking to somebody like Howard Scott Warshaw or something, you know, like most of those games were made by a single person, you know? It was just a person came up with an idea and coded it and did all the everything themselves. And like, it's just... There
are too many collectors out there. You're not going to find original prototypes of these things in somebody's backyard barn or whatever, in a hut.
Yes, like, getting that story about them finding all of those old arcade machines on that sunflower farm.
It's amazing. Also... check out Norco. You'll know if you're in for it or not, but if you enjoy what you see there, I really don't think it's going to let you down. Norco is a really fun and wild ride. Took me a little while to get through, but I'm glad I did. It just goes places that
incredible places.
Expand your mind a little bit with Norco.
Free your mind, man.
The whole bird thing and the whole thing is just it's a wild ride. Best storytelling, Norco Atari 50, the anniversary celebration.
Love it.
Next, we're going to get up to our first pet category here, and if you've been looking on the video, you could probably see it in the outline here. But we've got a category.
I'm sorry, we lost my header.
Oh no!
I thought, well, it's fine. I originally labeled these personal funsies.
Yes, we're in the personal funsies zone now. And our first personal funsie here is my category, which we are not here to debate. This is just a personal pet category that
I can't debate your picks. How dare you?
You cannot. I'm just here to tell you about these FMV or point-and-click adventure games that are for cool people. So these are games that came out this year that usually don't have a lot of places to go on lists. These are games that I personally look forward to every year, and kind of a bunch of them came out. So I'll give you my list of these, and then I'll just tell you what I think some of my favorites are. I have the Quarry on here, Immortality, which we talked about a bunch, both of those. The Centennial Case, a Shijima story, which we did a stream of, which is another fun FMV game.
The most illegal FMV game of the year.
Is it illegal?
Well, remember there was that whole thing with Square Enix, like getting mad at people streaming it.
Yes. The Dark Pictures anthology, The Devil in Me, which we are currently in a process of making our way through. The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, which is a point-and-click adventure game. Return to Monkey Island, in case you forgot, came out this year. Another point-and-click adventure game. I put Norco on this list as a point-and-click adventure game because
it kind of is.
Because it kind of is. You have an inventory in a couple of screens, and I would say it is of that. And Not for Broadcast went 1.0 or came out. Yeah, in early January. Yeah.
I don't think I realized that went 1.0.
Which is a really fun FMV game. And so, you might say, oh, well, The Quarry and The Devil in Me, are they FMV games? I'm saying yes.
Kind of.
I'm saying yes.
To the extent that the 3D models look just like the actors,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm going with it. I think it's the next iteration of full motion video and like kind of where those things have gone. And I think the Quarry and the Dark Pictures. And if I'm not here to pick a winner for these, but I am calling them out for being awesome. But I think Not for Broadcast is one people need to check out. That game is a lot of fun.
I might have to download that, actually. I had my eye on it, but I'm classically averse to early access games, and now that it's finished, I might... How do they describe that game? A full-motion propaganda simulator.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Is how they describe it.
It's got a lot of satire. It's very political. Got
a lot of personality to it. I will give it that. It is a standout personality.
Trailer just starts with somebody shoving a VHS tape in a deck.
You play as a control room operator for a station, and you're kind of putting together cuts and putting together the nightly news footage, and it's really well done. So that's Not for Broadcast in the FMV and or point and click adventure games are for cool people. And go check out Excavation of Hobbs Barrow. It's another great point and click adventure game that came out this year. I enjoyed Monkey Island, but I think I actually enjoyed Hobbs Barrow a little bit more. So check that out. The other games on this list you've seen us talk about. If you're into those types of games, if you enjoy what Vinny likes, that's me, you might want to check those out as well. Again, but Not for Broadcast and Excavation of Hobbs Barrow in the FMV and or point and click adventure games are for cool people category.
So you're not even going to whittle this one down at all.
No. There's hey, this is my category. You can check out all this.
You can do what you want. I am going to whittle my category down a little bit as we go through it, but I'm all right.
No.
All right.
These are all great games. Go play all of these. I'm only highlighting the ones I like the most out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. There are no bad games. All right, we're moving on.
Well, okay. No, wait, no, you can't say things like that.
There are no bad games on my list.
Okay.
We are going to move on to our next category, which is Best Game We Came Back to. So this category is kind of based around the idea that over the years, we've had iterations of games as service, early access, games that get DLC, games that go 1.0. This is kind of all of that dumped into one. If a game had come out previously in some form or another, and we came back to it for one reason or another this year, it was eligible for nomination in this category.
Got it.
I think this started largely around games coming out of early access, but then we had to put Dwarf Fortress on here, and also I knew people were going to riot if we tried to imply that Dwarf Fortress just came out or something.
Yeah, and there was room for DLC like the Cuphead DLC and remakes.
Yes. Or, hey, a 2021 game that I didn't play until this year.
There you go.
And you as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into it, which starts with Teardown, Dwarf Fortress, Grounded, which is a 1.0 release, Cuphead, I should say. Cuphead, let me go down this again. Teardown 1.0. Dwarf Fortress had its Steam release. It's more of a port, I would say, right?
The graphics and sound and UI makeover.
Yeah.
And also, they're charging money for it now and selling a lot of copies of that game.
Yes.
Good on the Dwarf Fortress people will never have to work again, and good for them.
Grounded.
They've worked so long.
Seriously, dude.
It's been a long road. Grounded, which was 1.0. Cuphead's DLC, which is Delicious Last Course. Resident Evil Village and its DLC.
DLC's okay.
Okay.
The DLC was a little underwhelming, honestly.
Maybe not the thing.
The base game, well, we'll talk about it.
Rogue Legacy 2, which hit 1.0. Hard Space Shipbreaker hit 1.0. The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake, bringing Last of Us up to current PS5. And the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which was basically DLC, but included some fleshing out of Stanley Parable. It's one big package, right? The Ultra Deluxe.
Buddy, is it ever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Those are the games we could add to it if we want, but those are the games we currently have on our Best Game We Came Back to. Where do we want to start? Can I start?
Yeah. Go for it.
I did not play a lot of Rogue Legacy 2. I didn't spend a lot of time in there. It wouldn't make my final list on here. It's I don't know if you guys have different feelings about it, but while I enjoyed it, I found I also bounced kind of hard off of Rogue Legacy, so it was it's very similar.
Yes. it is definitely more of that. I mean, with a lot of additions, and the look is quite different. But I did play a lot of that game. I like both of those games a lot. I don't know that I would put it. It would probably not be my pick either here. It's very good though.
It's very good. We can leave it on here for now as we go through stuff. But
well, if nobody else is going to pick it, then and if I'm not going to, then there's no reason to keep it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to end up picking that one. So
I think it's. I would like to get back to that game though. It is definitely iterative, but they made a lot of interesting changes to it. Still plays very well, also.
Again, I'll just say for the record, we started with the list of the best games we came back to, so everything on here is pretty good.
It's an honor to be nominated.
That's right.
I think for me, the only two on here that I feel fairly strongly about, because they're the only ones that I think I really felt like, hey, coming back to this, I had a great time, and I'm really glad that I did, are Teardown and Grounded. And that's no diss on Cuphead, which is the other one that I felt like I almost put on that list. But the thing that Cuphead DLC made me realize and remember is that, boy, I still suck gallons of ass at fucking Cuphead.
Gross. But maybe
it's
not.
It's really well-made DLC. But
well, as the world's best Cuphead player, I can tell you that DLC rules.
It's good.
I started to say half the reason I put this on here, that's not fair because that DLC is quite good. But part of the reason I put this on here is because I think it's in this very specific context of listing games for Game of the Year, their DLC abbreviating to DLC is pretty funny.
It's pretty good.
I agree.
It is the delicious last course.
It's
the Cuphead. It's the Cuphead DLC.
It's good DLC. It adds a new playable character. It's
yeah. Ms. Chalice actually pretty fundamentally changes the way the game plays, which is pretty awesome. Like, I got to the point where I kind of didn't want to use Cuphead or Mugman, no offense to them. It is more Cuphead. Like,
yes.
When you get down to it, it is more Cuphead, and like the bosses are very impressive. It is definitely more of that, though.
Yep. More great music, more great animation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would not make it for me, but it was a good reason to come back to the game for sure. I finished it and then I kind of just put it down and didn't spend a ton of time in it. Man, I'm realizing this is going to be a hard category for me. Resident Evil Village.
Village.
We came back to in the sense that none of us played it in 2021 when it came out, largely on account of quitting our jobs right around the time that it launched. If I had played through that game last year, it would have been very high on my top 10 list. I will say that. I don't know about you.
Yes, I like Resident Evil Village quite a bit.
It could have been a number 2 or 3 on my top 10 list last year, I think.
I think Resident Evil Village is pretty high on there. I'm not sure it would be on this list for me.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it for now. I'm not sure where I'm going to land yet. It is kind of the odd game out here, though, in that it's just a game.
Well, it did have DLC, but it's not the reason it's on here.
But that's not. Yeah, that doesn't rate. But it's very situational for us that we're even talking about it here compared to these other games. But I'm still going to leave it for now.
I think they did really good work on The Last of Us Part 1. I don't know that the word I would put to associate with playing that game again is glad that I came back to it. You know what I mean? Like, I had my time with The Last of Us Part 1. That was my favorite game the year it came out. I think this remake is well done. It looks real nice. They've given their sheen that they gave Last of Us 2 to this thing, but I don't actually think I ever need to fully play The Last of Us again. I'm like good on that front.
I kind of get where you're coming from. I think it is cool that this exists now in this form.
Yes.
I mean, it is kind of weird because they already did a remaster, I guess you'd call it. This is kind of a little bit more of a remake. This is the third time they put this game out. But it is cool that they sort of brought it up to the standard of the second one. How much that has to do with the new TV show, I'm not sure.
I'm going to say probably a fair amount.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's a pretty depressing game, for sure. It is a much more successfully executed game than the second one, though. And in that sense, it's cool that it's here.
Yeah.
But yeah, if nobody's jumping out of their chair for it, it can probably go.
It's not really a jump out of your chair kind of game.
I would not put it down as my favorite here.
Yeah, I'm good to move on from it.
I think Grounded for me is probably my pick.
It's up there for sure. There. Definitely the gulf between playing it when it first came out in early access, like we streamed it in 2020, like not that long into there, a few months into the pandemic, and playing it as a group and just going like, oh, this seems neat and promising. Oh, maybe I'll check this out again sometime. And then like coming back to it when it was finished and just going like, wow, this is one of the best games of the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've played the hell out of Grounded, and it's still continuing. I think it just is in the process, or as at the time of this recording, is getting another significant update. It's iterating. It's pretty hot and heavy in the old Grounded dev circle.
Yeah, they're still supporting it. It's just good.
It's just good. They made a good game.
It's just a very good survival and crafting RPG with a lot of like childlike wonder at, oh wow, that's a giant ladybug, and look at this soda can the size of a house.
It's like decent combat in it as well. It's not exceptional, but it's
like
okay.
The progression and combat stuff are actually like what kind of sealed it for me, because like it's got it had the look on day one.
Yeah,
but like seeing the game they built out once we got into it, and chasing all the bug parts to build armor out of, like I don't know, man. I just love building armor out of the things that you kill.
Yeah.
Which maybe means I should play more Monster Hunter. I don't know.
It's also got a decent hook in terms of narrative progression. They kind of set up a little story there, which has a decent backbone to it. It's not just wandering around aimlessly all the time.
Yeah, the Grounded might be my pick here. I'm not sure.
I'm locking it in as mine.
Okay.
Wow. Okay then.
I like it.
I don't feel as strongly about anything else on here. It's like
decisiveness.
Teardown would be my number 2. I think that the final product of that thing is really impressive and really cool in a way that, just even seeing those trailers, I did not necessarily fully expect. But I don't like crafting survival RPGs, and the fact that I really enjoyed playing Grounded, especially with you guys, I think is what makes it the winner here for me. Like it is working outside a comfort zone that I normally would ever really want to like throw myself into, and I had a blast.
Yeah.
I think I'll say this for Teardown. I liked Teardown and what I played of it early on, when it was kind of in its pre-release. I kind of didn't love Grounded when we played it early on. I
didn't either. I thought it was like okay.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was a little. I was, this is on us too, or on me. Lost in it. It was hard to kind of get my bearings and kind of find a pace in it. But going back into Grounded, I hit full traction. Like I really, really, and if it's a game I came back to, like Grounded definitely hit me the hardest coming back to it and being like, man, they put a lot of work into this. This feels much more like a game now from when it first released. Teardown, I kind of liked out of the gates, and sealing it up and having more levels is great.
Yeah, they just fleshed it out.
That's kind of a similar thing with Hard Space Shipbreaker. They did add a lot more story stuff to it as well, and that game actually is a decent amount more fleshed out than the sandbox they had to.
God, I wanted to love that game. I just something about the way my brain processes the space mechanics of that game, like. I could never fully wrap myself around it. I just couldn't do it.
That game's
great.
But
I really admire it.
My only thing is it gets a little samey in tearing down the ships. So it does, for me, even with the narrative stuff, does drag on a little bit. And that's probably my biggest knock against it. The kind of progression wheel slows down, even though I am into everything it's doing. And I don't know, these are all really good. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, like coming back to the Stanley Parable was awesome. Like I did that in maybe 1 or 2 sittings. I just couldn't put it down. I don't know. It's hard to argue with the amount of hours I have put into Grounded.
Yeah. We played it on those streams, and I really enjoyed that enough that I went and started my own world, and then I've now put that on pause because I've got a group of friends who wants to start a run. And so I'm like, playing it with a group is the way to play that game. So I'm basically about to start that game for the 4th time, and I'm still very excited to do so.
It's also really nice that they, or interesting, and not a thing I have necessarily seen before, but this isn't my genre, of letting you spin off single player instances of your multiplayer world. Like completely obviating the need for dedicated servers by just letting you make a shared world and then just letting anybody to play it whenever they want is pretty awesome. Dwarf.
All right, it doesn't sound like Hard Space will hang. Well, I don't know. It's up to Vinny. I mean, Alex already picked his. I'm still torn here. We haven't even talked about Dwarf Fortress yet.
I would take Teardown. I would take Hard Space over Teardown. So I think Teardown can go for sure.
Okay.
Dwarf Fortress. I just haven't touched it yet. I haven't. I mean, that could be a game that becomes a horrible time sink in the future.
I haven't looked at the poll yet, but I believe I will likely be playing more Dwarf Fortress tomorrow.
Okay.
At the time of this recording.
Sure seems that way.
Also, I think I forgot to put an end date on that poll, which oops.
Look, whatever it is an hour before the stream, that's what we're going with.
Okay, well, Dwarf Fortress is very definitively in the lead.
Okay.
I'm just going to quietly put an end on the poll.
So you've all abandoned my drums, and I hate you all.
Talk amongst yourselves.
So I think Dwarf Fortress is a game I want to get into. That could be, for me, a best game we came back to in 2023. Like I'm not there yet. I obviously haven't put any time into it, so I can't even say I've put not a lot of time into it. That is a game I will probably play during the break, and the Steam version, particularly the one that has just come out. So I can't in good conscience say I'm anticipating Dwarf Fortress being really interesting and fun, having watched you played it, having played a very little bit, or watched Dave Snyder play a little bit of the original Dwarf Fortress. It has the things I like in it, but I haven't done it. I haven't put the work in.
I questioned my decision to play that game for the first time on stream right up until I did it, and then even most of the way through it. But then I came away from that stream just continuing, that game was rattling around in my head. And it still is since that stream. There was just some part of me was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to start another world in this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I haven't played enough of it to say yet if it would be my favorite here. But the graphics and UI stuff they did certainly makes it way more approachable than it ever was before. Without that, I don't think I even would have touched it.
I agree.
I don't think playing it in text mode was not something that was going to happen. Okay. Anything else here you feel safe in shedding?
I'm just gonna say I've got to go with Grounded. It's just I played it with my family. They were all into it. My kids, it's just been the best game I've come back to. It's just honestly, by what it says on the tin, right? That is the best game I have come back to in 2022 since the time we played it.
Oh man, I've got to make a decision here. I've put my name next to Grounded.
Grounded, I don't think we had a unanimous subcategory or run-up category in 2021.
Did we not?
I don't think
not
we ever. One? I think we always had
I think we always had a 2 to 1.
Yeah.
I haven't removed our village yet.
Okay.
It needs to go. I feel weird about that one just because it really is the least relevant in this category. All these other games are games that got major updates or were relaunched or went 1.0 or whatever. This is just a game that I happened to play this year that didn't come out this year. Before I remove it, I am going to say I'm just literally looking at my top 10 from last year. I could see that game having been a number 2 or 3 on this list.
You think it would be in a personal top 10 for you this year?
Very likely.
Okay.
Looking over the year's games again. Well, let's cross that bridge when we get there. Cross that village when we get there.
So best game we came back to, again, these are games that we have either touched or played or looked at and then came back to in 2022 for one reason or another. Unanimous Grounded. Congratulations to the Grounded team for maybe Nextlander's first unanimous pick for a category that's not the top 10.
Yeah, just crazy, the leap from that initial early access launch to
Yeah.
to the final. Like, just didn't even see the potential in it then that they ended up reaching with it.
Are we ready to move on to our next pet category?
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
Just for funsies.
Brad Shoemaker, your just for funsie category is
I wrote down Hard Game Club here.
the Hard
Okay.
Game Club.
I was torn. I kind of also wanted to do like a what pushed graphics this year type thing, but we've got a category for that.
Well, how would you define the Hard Game Club?
These are just games that are hard. That's really my
Okay.
sole filtering criterion.
Okay.
Wow, that really says it all, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
It kind of does, right? Yeah, not much else to say about that.
What-
Just I enjoy a challenge, and some of these are like quick session, repeatable, Vampire Survivor style, like run based things.
Uh-huh.
A couple of them, like Callisto Protocol, is straight up just a AAA third person action game.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like these kind of run the gamut here a little bit.
Why don't you read them off?
Okay, I'll read the whole thing. Rogue Legacy 2, Vampire Survivor. I meant to throw a curveball into that last category and then got sidetracked and forgot, but we probably should have considered Vampire Survivors in that.
No, too easy. It might run away with it.
Everyone came to it in January is the thing. Like, yes, it came out in December last year,
Yeah,
but everyone
fair.
found it in January.
Fair.
Okay.
Vampire Survivors, Hyper Demon, Sifu with a question mark, because I don't think I'm actually going to keep that on here. Neon White, which is a game that, like, I guess it's just the categories we've been talking about, but I'm a little surprised that hasn't come up yet. The Cuphead DLC and the Callisto Protocol.
No Elden Ring on here, huh?
Yeah, I guess I could put that. I don't know. It's weird. Like, that didn't occur to me as a hard game anymore. And like, I'm not. That is in no way like I have gotten good or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
It's more like I feel like From games have been figured out. Like they've kind of like they've, especially as Elden Ring became like the biggest. Practically, it was the biggest game of the year until Call of Duty came along. Like, they are just about as mainstream as it gets at this point, right?
I would say they are extremely popular and sell very well.
Right. And part of that is that, like, they've become approachable, not because they've compromised their vision for design, but because people have, like, figured out how to meet them on their own terms, right?
Right.
Like, they're certainly still quite difficult, but they've lost their reputation as, like, oh, these are the games that are going to kick the shit out of you. Like, people know how to play these games now, and, like, they can be solved, I guess is the word. I feel like, yes, I think if I may take the liberty to say, I think you enjoy, like, when you say hard games, it's mostly like the mechanically hard, right? Yeah.
Like a Tunic is not necessarily like the puzzles aren't what you're talking about. It's
no.
And I think the From stuff mechanically, I think you're right. I think people have found the pace and rhythm with From games to say,
well, especially with this one, because this is a game that solves the problem a lot of people had with those games, which is when you run into a really hard thing and you have nowhere else to go but to keep beating your head against that hard thing.
Yeah. Yes, you can absolutely just go off and do other stuff and get stronger and come back.
And there's so much other stuff.
Yeah. But also, again, I've played all of their games at this point since Demon's Souls, and I feel like you go into one of those games kind of knowing what to do at this point.
I understand that argument.
But yes, so as on the Tunic point, like, yes, all of these have some, like, component of dexterity and timing generally,
Right?
but not always. I mean, there's also mechanical. There's more like abstract stuff as well of, like, I'm going to find ways to exploit the mechanics in this to make it easier, kind of like I did with Callisto Protocol, where I kind of figured out how to min-max the pickup health system so I could sell all the consumable health stuff and ammo and just mainline upgrades as fast as I could, to the point that I felt like I was, like, breaking the game just a bit, which was very fun. Like, that's the kind of shit I love more than anything, was just like, oh, you thought you were getting one over on me, game. Well, guess what? I'm getting one over on you.
Oh, that game.
Also, God, dude, I loaded it up since they did that patch just to see what you were talking about. For people who don't know, they dramatically sped up the, like, weapon switching and reloads and the health animation and all that shit.
All of it.
Dude, it's ridiculous.
You definitely beat a different
Like,
version of this game.
Like, I laughed out loud when I just loaded up a save and started shooting guns and healing to see what would happen. Like, it's comical. Like, it it looked like the animations were not designed to go that fast. Or maybe I just got really used to them, but he almost looks like he's fast forwarding. It almost looks like they're fast forwarding through footage of him doing those things a little bit. Yeah. That makes me think like maybe they put out the game they meant to put out and then people were not happy with it and they were like, well, shit, we got to do something.
Quick, hit the sliders.
It almost reminds me of like, you played like the Japanese release of it, and we got the old school US release.
The one that's out now is the Callisto Protocol Easy Type. I mean, there are fights in that game where I just couldn't switch weapons or use the healing item because you would get knocked out of those animations before you could complete them, and so you just had to make do with what you had. And like, it's crazy to think how different it might be now.
I told you I can't tell for sure because I beat it on a couple of tries, but I'm pretty sure I survived. There are a couple of enemies you get towards the end. There are these really big guys that can one hit you. And when I made it through, and then when I reloaded after the patch, I still had one more to go. And I think I survived a hit from him. Dude. I think you just survive like a single hit, at least where my health was.
That's one more than you could.
Yeah.
If they made those things not single hit kill, that's also crazy.
I think it just knocked my health all the way down, and that's bananas because if they touch you, it locked you into a death animation. Yep. There was no health involved. You could also skip the death animations.
Wow. Did you finish it?
Yeah, I did finish it, yeah.
Okay.
I finished it post-patch, though.
How did you find that last boss? Because I sure thought it sucked.
I mean, he sucked, but like not as bad as the stuff I was playing pre-patch. So it wasn't the worst thing in the game. It wasn't as bad as like the tram ride or that two-headed guy that you fight outdoors.
Yeah. Anyway, that's probably enough about that game for now. But I've got major reservations about the Callisto Protocol, but I still really enjoyed most of my time with it, and it sure was unforgiving in spots. I don't know. Do we need to go through all these? I mean, we talked about these quite a bit over the course of the year. Like Neon White is rad, and like I love how snappy the levels are. Like just you can play 5 minutes of that game and feel like you did a lot. You know?
Yeah. Also, like this is extremely a leaderboard game.
Right. Like the way they broke it up into very short levels that are very quickly repeatable and that they integrate the leaderboards with and everything. Like it's just a really good score chasing game. Hyper Demon is kind of the same thing. Like it's also very leaderboard based. It's the follow up to Devil Daggers.
Right.
I think I like Devil Daggers better in the final analysis. Hyper Demon might be a little too psychedelic at times.
Hyper Demon,
it's very psychedelic.
It's pretty. It can be borderline like hard to follow at times, which I admire that they went that far.
It's intense.
Nothing but respect.
It's a lot. It's pretty cool. Also, those games, they do a lot of interesting stuff with stat tracking and stuff that I think is pretty cool. We haven't really talked about Vampire Survivors here. I think everybody knows what that is. It is the... I saw somebody on my Twitter feed describing it as kind of like anti-bullet hell. Like you're the bullet hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're generating... It's an auto attacker. I don't know what we're calling those games, but it's a game where you just move around and all your weapons go automatically.
I call it a Death Walker.
And yeah, sure. All the strategy is in maneuvering and positioning and also picking which upgrades you get over time.
You create the aura of death that you want.
If I had to pick a winner on here, it would probably have to be that.
Yeah.
Just because the feeling of getting super upgraded in that game and just being this whirling dervish of fucking death. I mean, there's a reason that game is as big as it is.
Yeah. It's spectacular.
Yes. And yeah, I think that covers all the games here.
Yeah. And we talked about Rogue Legacy previously.
Yeah. And Cuphead.
Yeah.
Not like a major standout game of this year that I just... Not quite a Geometry Wars this year.
I love your hard game club.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what?
Good stuff.
You don't need my input, but I like your winner too.
Okay, sure.
Would be winner, let's say.
If you were picking a winner, I like your winner.
I feel like this could be the Boomerang X presents the 2022's Hard Game Club, right? Like, I feel like I know your particular style of game, so it's fun to see what you think is up there. Vampire Survivors. It's going to have a lot of clones. Get ready. Again, we should probably mention before people start yelling and don't fight about it in any kind of chat or in our vicinity. We know that there are other games before Vampire Survivors. Yes. Vampire Survivors is not the first, and
it was itself a clone, I guess.
It is not the originator, but it is the popularizer.
Yes. And there are already other ones coming out that I've tried that are also pretty good.
It's not a hard concept to execute on. I just think I think it's going to be very hard for any other game to gain the same level of mind share that one did.
Mm-hmm. Especially now that it's on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about taking one more break here, and then we'll get back and we'll do our next category, which is best look, coming up next. We'll take a quick break. Stick around for best look. And we're back, and we are now in best look. Best look, man. This category has really had a history over the 20 plus years.
It's evolved, we'll say.
And it just gets shorter.
Artistic, best graphics, technical.
Best.
I think best look is the most comprehensive way to describe this, because the look of the game is just everything it does visually.
Best
like,
look,
literally everything.
Yeah,
like that could be everything from like ray tracing and pixel shaders to like fashion sense.
It's true.
Like costume design or whatever.
It's best style. It's best technical. It's best everything.
Literally everything that goes on the screen.
I'm going to read down the best look nominees that we have added so far, and then there might be more. This is already a big category, but best look currently includes Dying Light 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, Tunic, Norco, Myth Force, The Quarry, Citizen Sleeper, Neon White, Stray, As Dusk Falls, Rollerdrome, Immortality, Scorn, God of War Ragnarok, Atari 50, the Anniversary Collection, Pentiment, Somerville, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, The Callisto Protocol, Melatonin, Teardown, and I'm going to scroll, and that seems to be it.
I think that's all we've got right now.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Boy, that's a lot of games that are best looking games.
I'm looking at my list, and I don't think I have anything to add to this.
I'm looking at the year list, and I think we're ready to start picking favorites.
Boy, there's a lot on here. I guess I would. Shall I nominate some stuff I don't think?
Yeah, let's
start there.
I think Myth Force also. Wow, remember Myth Force?
Remember Myth Force?
Vaguely.
Still in early access, I believe. It hasn't come out
it's not
yet.
done.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of one trick, I guess I would say. It's a pretty good trick that they do pretty well, I will say.
It does the 90s cartoon
or 80s, yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Frankly, they made a game that looks like He-Man.
Yes,
yeah.
Like, straight up, this just looks like He-Man, and they did pretty well with it.
Yep. They do look well, but yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm looking at screenshots of it right now, and like they do a very good job of like the character models look like cell animated characters, and the just like you had the hand painted, like the nicely detailed hand painted static backgrounds in a cartoon with the comparatively simplistic cell animated characters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like they nailed that look, even that contrast between character and background.
It's done very, very well.
Yeah. It's worth highlighting. It would not make my list of the best game, or it would certainly not be my pick.
It is that game standout feature. I will give it that.
Not your best look.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of yes.
I don't think that Rollerdrome makes it on here. I do think it's. I mean, look, it's cell shading. It has a distinctive look. It is a cartoonish, comic booky looking thing, and they're adding some 70s sci-fi aesthetics on top of that, and it moves nicely. But I don't know that I think the visuals are incredibly standout. I'm going to be honest. I legitimately thought that someone had taken that game from last year. The desert exploration game.
Oh, Sable?
Gosh. Yeah,
Sable.
Yes, this does look quite a bit like Sable. Actually, I keep forgetting that, but the style is quite similar.
But they're using similar visual tricks, but just with a very different aesthetic. And And I don't know. I think it's a good looking game. I think it's cool, and it is one of the more standout features, but I don't think it ranks as highly as a lot of these other ones do for me.
I thought about putting it on my hard game club because it's pretty hard.
It is pretty hard.
I found it to be kind of repetitive and frustrating after a while, especially trying to get certain specific objectives.
Yes.
That's a cool game. Also, I will shout out to their graphic design. Like, I think their logo looks like 70s sci-fi movie poster art in a really nice way. I don't know if I can get behind As Dusk Falls on here. It's certainly got a memorable look.
That feels like a joke.
It's certainly, I mean, I don't think it looks terrible. It's certainly memorable.
I kind of do think it doesn't look good. That's my personal opinion.
It's very interesting.
You know, in stills, it's not so bad because it's just, you know, it's got that painterly quality in stills. It's when you put the whole thing together in motion that it really starts to feel something off about it. It's just, it does. I'm with you. It doesn't work for me.
I mean, there's just a real minimum of animation.
Yeah.
Everything about that game.
Characters.
Everything about that game feels like you fed an AI a Quantic Dream style thing and said, what do you spit out? And this is what it spit out.
Actually, watching the trailer is reminding me, like, the camera moves and stuff like vehicles moving around are pretty realistic. It's just the people that don't animate, or you know, there's just a minimum of animation.
And I think that's part of the problem, is that juxtaposition doesn't work.
Yeah, it was an interesting effort.
Yes. I will not knock the attempt at trying something a little different here, but I don't think, for me, it was not successful.
This ain't the you tried something category.
Not entirely. I thought that game was kind of interesting.
Just didn't do anything for me.
Oh man, a lot of games on here. So I put Immortality on here because I think they do a great job with their period filters and to their ability to make the footage. It's not novel. It's not something that technologically is any great hurdle, but there is an artistic merit to it, to making something look like it's of a certain time period, and I think they accomplished that.
Some of the clips of the supposedly old movies pretty much believably read as like, oh, this is... Maybe you're not quite going to say, oh, that's 60s film stock, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually appreciate that part of it, purely on the... you did it. You set out to do a thing, and I think you did it. And also, the set pieces and the effects you're using were believable to me for a time period. You hit the look of what you're trying to do. So I want to leave that on there for a bit because I think it is rather exceptionally done.
I just remembered that. I just remembered the clips of the late night, the fake Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Like even those like have some good like 80s broadcast TV off of a VHS like kind of looks to them.
It's done well.
Yeah, they put effort into that for sure. I don't think I would keep Scorn personally. I don't know about anybody else. Like I think that the fidelity wise, it looks very good. What they're cribbing from is pretty direct.
Yeah.
It is, but it is really the reason to play that game, is to see what they are doing with their horrible wet art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do horrible things with their horrible wet art, but...
Yeah, it's very damp.
But yeah, the inspiration is clearly there. You know, it is...
Yeah.
They're not coming by this whole cloth, and it's hard to shake some of that sometimes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. It's very well done for what they're doing. But like some of those hallways and stuff are just so straight out of gear that...
Yeah,
and I don't remember the name. I've seen another artist referenced as well. That it's not just Giger. There's another
Beksinski, I think, is the one.
Maybe that's who it was.
It's not my best look. I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I think it looks quite good.
Yes.
Like, again, for the style they're going for, I think they're hitting it pretty hard.
There's a little bit of like visual communication issue also in that game, where sometimes the art overtakes everything to such a degree that it's hard to necessarily discern where you're supposed to go or what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, cutting it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. We've got some big heavy hitters on this list that are probably not going to make it for me. And so I'd like to get your opinions on starting with something like Horizon Forbidden West, which is, again, we're in a place where games are looking very good. I think the art in Forbidden West is not exceptional. I mean, like the style and the design choices, but it is all well rendered. You know what I mean? It is.
Oh yeah, fidelity-wise, it's top notch.
Yeah, like that would be, if there was still a graphics technical, that would be a contender for sure.
Yeah, so
like that one in particular, I flipped back and forth multiple times between frame rate and fidelity modes. Basically, couldn't tell a difference other than the frame rate.
So
like that's a pretty. I mean, granted, I'm not on a 4K TV, but that's a pretty pretty big accomplishment.
I think if it were done to a level that put it above anything else on here, I think that could be a reason to win. I mean, this category doesn't encompass that, but for me, I don't think it would. I don't know if you guys feel that way also, that it would push it above that. Those particular aspects of it would push it above.
Probably not. Like, it's up there just on the fidelity scale of like, oh wow, this is an amazing looking landscape, but
it's a showpiece. It is a showpiece for that console and that hardware. But I mean, look, I don't want to hammer this too much because I've talked at length about this. I just think the art direction in those games is a mess.
I think it gets better as you go through. Either it gets better as you go through. Okay, there's a couple of things going on. Either it's pretty bad in the beginning with some of the costume design, or you just get used to it as you go through. Like, you could just become used to the kind of slow boil on that stuff. But the early parts you're in, I forget what that area is called. It's like the Daunt. The Daunt. It's the chains and the pots on the head. You get past some of that into other stuff, and that goes away a little bit. But it's still pretty corny.
It's just it's a game that has always, and the first game was this way too. It's a game that has always been dedicated to doing the most possible for every possible character design. Then it goes to the robots, to just everything in that world. And I just feel like this is a game that badly needed someone to look at every character and do that thing where you look in the mirror, then you turn around, then you look back, and the first accessory you see, you pull that shit off.
Sure, yeah. I can see that. I think for the robots it works. I'm fine with it on the robot side, but I think the costume design for a lot of the human characters, like maybe it's you talking about it now, I can't not see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very busy.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. Yeah, I'm fine to cut it. I think like landscape wise and how well it runs, it looks pretty freaking incredible.
Yeah, I can't stress this enough because I always feel bad about it. So I'll just say it again. Getting on this list means there's something about these games that is great. And cutting them doesn't mean they're bad. It's just we're trying
just not our personal favorite.
Yes.
Okay. Feel free to argue with me on this one, because I didn't play this one nearly as much as you guys did, but I didn't think Dying Light 2 looked that great.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Some of those, for some reasons, are stylistic, some are sort of technical. Apparently, like it has a very robust ray tracing mode on PC, and apparently looks fucking incredible if you have the hardware to run it, which I don't. Apparently, you need like very top of the line hardware. I've seen people saying, and I've watched some footage, that it's like practically a different game with the full ray tracing on.
Okay.
And that gets into the stylistic stuff that I kind of had a problem with in this, which is that the first game was incredibly dark at night. Like, the first game is straight up the most terrifying, like, day-night situation I've ever seen in a game, because they are very unafraid in that game to let you see fucking nothing in front of you. Like, the whole gameplay tie-in with the night stuff in the first game is that there are pockets of light that you're kind of trying to run between, but there are vast stretches where you can barely see where you're going, and there are some really awful things like right on your heels. And this game felt like they really got away from that sense of danger at night, and you could just kind of see everything by moonlight all the time. And that kind of bummed me out. Like, it lost some of the kind of really terrifying nighttime atmosphere that the first game had for me. Some of it is still there, but it's not as potent.
Yeah, I think also just on a fidelity level, like looking at some of those characters up close and some of the animation stuff, it feels a little slipshod in places.
It's kind of cartoonish.
Yeah.
Like the characters have a little bit of an exaggerated look to them, which is kind of a matter of taste. I think it looks fine. Like art design is basically fine, but not super remarkable. It just didn't feel as dangerous as the first one to me. All right. Going, sounds like.
It's not going to be on mine.
Elden Ring would not be up there for me just because I feel like I've seen them do fantasy art so much already.
Oh, there's really good stuff in there.
Such an incredible variety of it, though, and like, I don't know, man. Every time I mean, again, I didn't play nearly as much as Vinny did, but I also saw some of the places he went while he was streaming it, and just in all the places I went, I felt like every time I walked into a new area or discovered a new area in that game that wasn't just like a dank cave, I had a moment of just like putting the controller down and just being like, huh.
Yeah, it's
fair.
There are really amazing set pieces and artwork in this game, and there's just a lot of it. There's a decent amount of variety. It's really good.
I think the character design, like the enemy design, is some of their most distinctive stuff.
Yeah, it's not always just bubbly eyeballs.
Yeah.
on monster. It's not always just the grossest thing.
It's not always fucking Sneak King running around.
Not always. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I would leave it on here for now.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not ready to part with that one.
This is gonna be a tough one for me because there is a lot of stuff here. I think God of War Ragnarök looks fantastic. I think that game visually is some of the best, kind of like Horizon, some of the best stuff out there. It has every right to be. It's it's a top tier first party game. I can't say anything about the visuals on it aside from I've seen a little bit of it before. It feels a little also ran because of the previous God of War, and seeing this unfortunately maps. Ooh, my voice got a little fuzzed. Oh no,
oh, man, they're trying to silence you,
Sony. I think God of War Ragnarök maps God of War 2018 to Ragnarok standards. That effect of like when I think back to 2018 one, it's like, oh, it always looked like this, right? And it's like it did not always look like this. I'm gonna soft keep that on here for now. I know that's kind of a cop out. It's just very, very good, and it feels wrong to cut it just yet. It's probably not gonna make it for me. I've got Elden Ring, God of War, Norco. It's a lot on here.
Yeah. Here, let's knock a couple off here that I think can just that I'm not going to go to bat for, and therefore I don't think anyone else is. Melatonin is a really nice looking game. It has a cool art style, like some nice animation in it, but it is fairly simple. It's a rhythm game. You're really not meant to like focus in on the visuals more than just to kind of see what you're doing as you're playing the different levels. Like it's cute. It's a really nice animation. I don't want to like discount it, but I don't think it's one of the top best looking games of the year.
Okay, fair.
That's fair.
It's not going to be on mine.
And I don't think Somerville ranks for me either.
Somerville is probably on my best.
The opening of Somerville maybe does, but then as it wears on, and also as some of the stuff involving character animation and butting up against the environment starts rearing its head, I feel like I lost a lot of that luster.
Yeah, Somerville is kind of a bummerville.
Oh man, don't. Nope. Too late.
I did it right there. It's like right in my wheelhouse of games I've loved, like Out of This World and Flashback and those kinds of games, even Inside, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's something's not tight enough about it to all click and be cohesive for me. Though I really like it and it deserves to be on this list, I wouldn't mark it as my number one.
Gone.
Just
cut.
Is Atari 50 really in here?
I mean, yes, absolutely. I'm not saying it's going to be my pick.
Totally.
But like the graphic design and the motion graphics, like the transitions, that menu.
There is a production layer on this of visuals that add to not only the story they are telling, they add to each thing that is presented, and I think that is the visual design on that stuff.
I'm not saying it's not good. It's great. I have nothing negative to say about the visual presentation of that game. I just don't know that it stands out for me in the way that it would need to for this category.
It is, and I don't know if, unfortunately, I bet the trailers are not going to show a ton of the menus, but it is straight up the menu design in this game. And not just the way they look, but also, again, the way they animate and the transitions between different things.
It's like very slick.
From the second you load that thing up and get to that front menu, it feels lovingly crafted in every single way.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally, as you go through the menu options of the different eras on the title screen, they took Atari hardware into a studio and lit it very nicely and had it rotating on a turntable in front of the camera as an inset in that menu. The whole thing is just put together so well.
And I'll even add to that and say, organizing the data is hard, and they did it in a unique, interesting, and that's a visual way, instead of just here's a dump. It's
the dump is still there if you want it.
And the dump is
even the zooms in and out of those timelines where you kind of zoom into a timeline and kind of see a lot of it before you drill down to the first part. It's just, I'm not saying it would be my number one here, but it is absolutely a very strong visual effort.
I'll take Atari. How about this? I'll take Atari 50. And again, these are all fantastic games. Over Neon White. I think Neon White does a thing, does it well, matches what it needs to with the visuals and the speed of that game. It works in a this is moving very fast. We don't even need textures. We're just going to go. You're not going to have time to look at anything. Everything reads super quickly like it needs to. The visual design is smart, but I don't think it's my best look on here.
Strong use of color to enhance playability at the speed that game moves at. The best thing they did was make that game look exactly as good as it needs to run at the frame rate it needs to be playable, because performance is all that matters in that game.
Yeah, and I think the character art is pretty good, but I don't think it stands out in a way that is of a style that is extremely unique. It's of a certain type.
Yeah, but I think that the relative simplicity of the environment design really feeds this needs to run very smoothly and
read quickly. And they do that, and that's no small accomplishment. If they mess that up, this game wouldn't work.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. That said, am I jumping out of my chair at the art design and stuff in this game? Not really.
Yeah.
So I can. It is worth saluting, but I could see it going for sure.
When I say that, it's not that I don't want to salute it; it's that I don't know that it's going to make our final list. Now we're getting into it here.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't actually think Stray makes it in the end, but it is a looker. It has some really strong art design. I love the robot style. I love their expressiveness. I love the cat animation. The city design, which is, let's just be real, is basically Kowloon Walled City, but future-y, is still done very well. I just don't know that it's in the tops of this category.
It might be my number one here.
Okay.
So
yeah,
if it is, then it's on there. I wanted to raise it.
I will leave it on here for now.
Okay,
for sure. I'm not 100% decided, but that might be my number one.
Okay,
let's keep it. I really like it as well. It's not going to be my number one, but I understand the struggle.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. We'll get back to it.
Here's one that I put on here that I will take off for myself, which is Citizen Sleeper, which is a game that I think has some really excellent character art and does a really good job of unifying that with the presentation that they are doing in the game. But it is not quite as much of a standout looker the way some of these other games are.
Yeah. Okay. I really like the character art. I think even just character art, I have other picks I would pick for it. Citizen Sleeper for me is about the writing and the experience, and
the art, and the music.
Yeah. And the art supplements that. It's very good, but I don't know if I would say it's the best of the year.
It's not the game's strongest component.
Yeah,
but it is very good in that regard.
Okay.
I could see the Quarry going unless anybody's super attached to it. I think technically it is quite well executed. Those characters look very good, to be fair.
It's probably the strongest, make the people look like the people work they have done so far.
Now that I say that, maybe we shouldn't cut it.
It's very, very good.
But
Like
they made a summer camp game, and it looks like a summer camp game.
Yeah, I mean, the art design is what it is. It's very functional and gets the job done just fine. But like some of the close-ups on those characters, I mean, like you do need believable human emotion to read in games like that, and it really does. Like we're getting, there are spots in that are out of the uncanny valley for me, I think. Like there are parts where some of those characters, like I don't even think about them being 3D models anymore. They're just actors. Laura is the one that loses her eye, right, with the eye patch.
Yeah,
from the intro.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Like I don't know what it was. Something about her model in particular. Like I just felt like some of her close-ups, I was just like, holy shit, this looks lifelike as hell. Like I'm just shocked at how good this stuff is getting. Not all of them are like that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Some of them definitely, like they do kind of get into that slightly robotic mannequin territory.
There's some weird teeth in there.
on occasion. Ted Raimi is another one.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It almost feels like some characters are better executed than others, but Justice Smith is another one. I think those are some of the best, like just best realized, like these are real human beings in that game.
It's great. It's, it also makes you realize, how quickly some of the dark picture stuff is put together. There's a contrast between something like this and the dark picture stuff.
Definitely a quality divide between this and Devil and Me.
Yeah.
It makes me excited though. I mean, I don't know how fast they're going to keep cranking out dark pictures from the leaks. It seems like very fast. But if they do any more long-term projects like the Quarry, like if they do another one by the end of this generation, like I'm very excited to see what they end up doing with that by the time that comes around.
They've got a great thing going. I really like what they're kicking out.
I really like the poster for that. I really like the box art like that. It's just some good teen slasher flick art.
Yeah.
That could probably go.
I just think there's stronger games on here. It is a strong one, but there are better ones.
I'm probably not going to go to bat for that in the end.
I think I can let Sparks of Hope go. It is probably the best looking Switch game this year, especially from anything that is. I mean, it's not Nintendo first party, but you know what I mean. It's really nice looking. I mean, that hardware is showing its age in a lot of ways, but that is a rare game where you don't really notice the hardware age at all. Like they've smoothed everything to such a degree. I feel like this level of cartoonish stuff plays the best on this hardware, and they really do kind of nail that. And some of the world design and character design, I think, is genuinely pretty inventive and fun. But I can't say that it beats at least 4 or 5 other games on this list for me.
Yeah, that describes my feelings pretty well. Like they live within their means really well with this game. Like they don't, like they make it look good without pushing that hardware so hard that it kind of
it runs well too. Is the thing
gets messy. Like it feels like an earlier Switch game in the sense that it still runs like it should.
Yeah,
and still looks good doing it.
Yeah,
great game.
Yeah, but yes, I get where you're coming from for sure on that.
Woof. Okay, we're getting into it now.
Yeah, now we're kind of getting to the weeds here.
Okay, I know I really like the look of Teardown. How do we all feel about Teardown?
I also really like it. I love that like pixel art in a 3D world kind of stuff. Like I was following that game before it even had a name, when it was just that dude posting animated GIFs on Twitter of like, hey, look at this shit. I'm like, he's like, hey, look at this kind of voxel renderer thing I'm working on or whatever, before it was even a game. There's something uncanny about the way that thing looks.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the tilt shift on stuff or what, but like
that's part of it. I'm literally looking at footage and I can't describe what it is. I'm trying to. Everything has just got such a blocky look to it. Like it's just so well executed for the exact type of kind of destructible terrain thing it's doing.
And it kind of works.
Yeah, it extremely works. Man, I wasn't even thinking this would be a major contender for me until I look at footage of it and I'm like, oh god, right, that does look incredible.
I just
looked at some really impressive stuff in there.
I just looked at the fire propagation.
The way the fire propagates and like the physics on swinging objects and destructibility, those mods we loaded up, and all the shit you could make it do.
Oh yeah,
man.
Remember Yoshi? Remember the Titanic?
I do. All right, you know what? Leave Teardown on the list for now.
Yeah, let's not ditch it just yet.
Oh boy. I played a lot of Pentiment. I like what they're going for. I don't think it's my best look.
You might be right. It's really the small details in that game. Like, obviously it is going for a very particular art style, and I think it really nails that. But then they do little things like was it the Ethiopian priest that you meet, like his character style is done in a different art style than everything else because it's more close to like, you know, his homeland and the art style of that era. And, you know, just the way they kind of, I don't know, man, like you're right. It probably isn't in this top of the category. Mm-hmm. But for going for such a specific thing and nailing it to the degree that they do, I really am impressed with the visuals of this game a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I came out of that presentation, they gave like gushing about all the detail that they put into it and you know, clearly a labor of love and all that stuff. Like, I think my only knock against it is if I hadn't gotten that in presentation, I would have been hard pressed to pick out most of that detail. You know what I mean? Like, I would have come out of this saying like, oh yeah, that really does look like medieval art or whatever. But I absolutely would not have noticed, like, oh, this character, like characters from this class are woodblock and these other characters are illumination. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I probably a lot of the fine detail would have been lost on me if I hadn't gotten it somewhere else.
I mean, I'm no expert on this kind of stuff. Like, I don't have like a background in this kind of art history, but you can just feel it kind of in every corner of that game, just like the amount of research and accuracy that they were striving for and how well executed it is.
Yeah. I listen.
But it's a really nice but in the end, it's a really nice looking side-scrolling game that has pretty good character art and animation that is expressive, but it is not necessarily like, I agree that there were probably stronger games on this list.
I mean, I will say for the scope of that game's development, it looks incredible. Like,
yes.
Like they did a lot with the small number of people that they had.
There's also, it should be mentioned, there's interesting things they do with time in that game and the art and changing things around. So that's also worth mentioning. I'm looking at this list. I'll read it in its current form for those listening. Elden Ring, Tunic, Norco, Stray, Immortality, God of War Ragnarok, Atari 50, Pentiment, Callisto Protocol, and Teardown are the games currently on here. Let's get to some we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
Tunic. I think Tunic looks great. It's fun. It's not going to be my number one. I don't know what to say other than I just really like the art style.
It's a really beautiful game.
It's close to my number one, honestly. Like, I'm torn between Tunic and Stray. I mean, first of all, those manual pages are just like sublime.
That's true. That is
incredible in terms of recreating the exact feel of video game manuals from that era.
You're right. Yes.
Like, I just like fell out of my chair the first time I got one of those manual pages and pulled it up.
If you had best start menu or best manual,
best thing that makes me remember my long lost childhood.
Mm-hmm.
This is it by far, but also like the look of the world and like there's something there's like a soft focus or something glowing about this game. I don't know how to describe it, but there's something about the look of this game that is just so damn nice.
Yeah,
man, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a really joyful thing to look at.
Some of the like god rays, like in that forest, the way the lighting looks in a lot of spots, like. Mm-hmm. Man, I thought I might give it to Stray coming in here, but now I don't know.
I maybe lean more Tunic than Stray if that's where things are headed.
I knew. Well, everybody's choice is their choice.
I know.
Like, that doesn't matter. But
I'm just giving you my personal opinion.
I knew Tunic would be up there, but now that I'm watching this trailer again, like, I don't know, man. That's
we'll leave it on there.
Effort.
Okay, we got some more.
That's a very strong effort.
I'll just say, I think for Tunic, the pure confectionery visual design is a big part of what makes plucking away at that world so interesting. Like, I don't know, it's just like every I wanted to see every corner of that thing, even if the gameplay didn't always necessarily like reinforce that.
All right, Norco.
Talk about a game that has a distinctive visual style. I mean, yes, it is operating in the framework of a point-and-click adventure game, but like in terms of realizing what they want how they want that space portrayed, that city portrayed, and especially with the kind of like alternate futuristic technology that kind of like infects everything. I don't know, like, it's just so singular to me. Like, it is such a if that art isn't what it is, I don't know that you get as ensconced in that sense of place and those characters and that world as you end up doing. The writing is fantastic, but I think the visual and audio design more than supports it. Like it is a huge factor in what makes it appealing.
All right, we leave it.
It might end up being.
This is getting tough. Okay, all right. The Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, I think that's the last game we haven't talked about here. Like that is definitely the graphics technical winner.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Like art design wise, it's not doing a whole lot that has not been done before repeatedly.
Yeah.
God, I'm just being reminded again, looking at these screenshots, how these literally could just be screenshots of Dead Space 4 in another universe. Like if we lived in a different timeline, it's very much that. There is some art design stuff in that game. Some spots with the lighting. Actually, that intro with the prison break, when you are out on the catwalk and there's the big, like the solitary confinement tower thing in the middle, and those spotlights are roving all over the place. Those like blinding spotlights. Like just visual design wise, that part actually looks incredible. Like that was a really strong opening. I don't think much else in the game reaches that height again that I can think of.
Yeah, there's I actually for me I really like the last. You don't get to explore it much, but the very very last stuff.
I visually I'm super with you. I got there and I was like, wow, this looks super cool. Like it was a little bit. It was kind of such a hard swerve though. In the last like 10 minutes of the game, it was like I kind of wish you had built up to this a little more. And maybe had a little more time to marinate in it, and also maybe justified it a little more. I mean, like the story does sort of justify why you're in suddenly this very different environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. It looked very cool.
It's cool. You don't spend a lot of time there.
Also, the helmets in this game, like I don't know that they make a lot of diegetic sense other than maybe it's supposed to be so people can see each other's faces out in snowstorms or something.
Oh, for sure. No, I think in space,
little spotlights inward on people's faces inside the helmets. Like, it just looks awesome. I don't know how to explain it. Like, just the way it lights people's faces up behind this visor on these spacesuit things, I thought looked really cool. Yeah,
it's very believable.
But, you know, like, the monster design is pretty straightforward in that game. It's really just, like, it looked good enough to get me to play it on the quality mode, you know? Like, I played both modes, and there is a profound difference there, qualitatively, not just in terms of, like, resolution and stuff.
What do you think? I don't know if it's going to be mine.
It's an exciting taste of things to come. I don't think, like, art design wise, that it gets there for me. Very, very worth highlighting on a technical level, especially because they're on essentially a last gen engine for this thing. I did a lot of that work themselves, but I don't think it hangs in terms of overall look for me.
Man, this is tough.
It was up there though. I think it's down to Stray and Tunic for me.
I think I'm on
Atari 50.
I think I might be an Elden Ring.
Okay.
Lock.
All right.
I might be an Elden Ring lock.
Wow. I did not expect to see that.
I'm not sure I did as well.
Elden Ring almost is my pick.
Interesting. I'm in, okay, here's where I am. I'm either Elden Ring, Norco, Immortality, and maybe Atari 50. Like,
I mean, that's
like,
I'm with you.
I think God of War Ragnarok, while I think it is visually, amazing, and again, it's one of the it's up there. It wouldn't supplant one of those other ones, so you could probably take God of War Ragnarok off this list just to make it a little easier. But yeah, I really loved exploring Elden Ring, and I think more than the other From games and more than maybe any other game on this list. I just think the visual feast in there is not only abundant, like quantity, the quality is also there. There's it is samey in a lot of parts, but when they turn it on, some of the towns and the capital city, it's fantastic. So I think for me, boy, I think Elden Ring. Okay.
All right. Okay. I'm going to write a name next to Elden Ring.
Yeah. I think
that name is Vinny.
I think.
You think?
Question mark. He thinks. I think.
All right. You are eventually going to have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. This is tough. Like, Tunic, Stray, Atari 50, Teardown, like any of those, I feel like could take it for me, depending on the day. Alex, have you committed here? Is it going to be Immortality for you? Because if Vinny's not,
Me? No.
Oh
he's
no,
still thinking.
I was an
He's
Immortality person, but like,
yeah, but you're still thinking though. So
yeah, you could see,
But it's not Immortality.
It's
I can
not
tell
Immortality.
it's not okay.
Yeah.
I can go then.
But I think they knocked it out of the park with the visual, the targets they were going for.
And it's not Pentiment for me either. In the end,
Okay, so it doesn't sound like Pentiment's going to make it for anybody.
it's it's maybe between Tunic and Norco for me at this point.
Pentiment is an
I'm leaning
amazing
Norco.
effort. Just to be clear,
Yeah.
like the amount of detail and nuance they poured into that thing is kind of astounding. It was more of a me problem. I'm not like positioned to appreciate it without my hand being held.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's between Tunic and Norco, and I think I maybe just lean Norco because it's just so weird.
Norco's great.
In a wonderful, wonderful way.
Okay. All right. Writing Alex's name here next to Norco.
Yes. Lock it in.
All right, Brad.
Man, I
made the decision.
just thought it was going to be Stray coming in here, and now I am torn. Shit.
A lot of lookers on this list.
So for those listening, one more time here, the things that are still on the list: Elden Ring, which I've put my name next to; Tunic, Norco has Alex's name next to it; Stray, Atari 50, and Teardown. And I think so, Brad. Where are you feeling?
For best look, just in case,
Yes,
just in case
Yes.
you've forgotten. Man,
like what are you tossing around here?
gosh, it's
Where's your
probably
heart?
really between Tunic and Stray.
Okay,
I do think Atari 50 looks incredible. Like they went so above and beyond on the presentation of that thing. Like even with the content of that thing, it still could have looked like it still could have had way less like pizzazz in the visual design.
yeah.
Even if it were the exact same product otherwise, and they really went above and beyond there. Teardown is more of a kind of mechanical, this looks amazing. It's just like, oh, the parts this is built out of kind of lead to it looking amazing in a weird technical way. But like Tunic and Stray are the art design ones here, right? Like those are the ones that are very intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be between those two for me. I don't know, man. Maybe I was just Quake 2 pilled 25 years ago or something, but like color lighting in Stray is fucking incredible. Like the lighting that they use across that game, and a lot of it is like pretty stark. A lot of it is like, this is very teal lighting. This is very pink lighting.
Yeah.
This is very bright fluorescent lighting. Like it's not necessarily subtle, but I don't think that's what they're going for. I just think so much of the environment design in that game just looks incredible, and the way they use the lighting to enhance it. And I like the robot designs. Like I think that like robot with a screen for a face is like very well worn territory, but they still managed to do some interesting stuff with the way those robots emote and stuff.
They get a lot out of it.
That I thought was really fun. Oh man, Vinny, are you locked in on Elden Ring? Is this literally just me now?
It wouldn't be Stray for me. But yes, I will lock in on it. And the more I think about Elden Ring, the more like I just want, when we played it on stream, I just wanted to show off stuff and, you know, some of the vistas and the bosses. It really, I think for me, really struck me this year.
Sure. Man, I just have to make a decision here. I think it's Tunic for me.
Oh my
honestly.
gosh. It's
I think-
curveball.
I think it's Tunic. Like,
Is it the manual pages?
that's a huge part of it for
Okay.
sure. But I mean, I think that even without those, that game looks incredible.
Yeah.
Like it very much looks like a modern Zelda. Like, you know what? Like that forest area you get to reminds me so much of Link to the Past in the way the lighting is used and stuff like that, and even the bushes.
Not accidentally, for sure.
No, it's very intentional, but like they just do it so well. Like it so much is a modern old Zelda.
Yes.
In every way. Yeah. Yes, I'm giving it to Tunic.
Okay.
Apologies to Stray, you almost made it. I do think that last shot of you opening the city is pretty incredible.
I think either of those is a really strong pick.
Atari 50 and Teardown also look pretty rad, but I'm going with Tunic.
So that is our first 3-way divergence on best look. Now, okay, I just want to, for the sake of everybody listening and for the sake of you guys, could you imagine the three of us having to sit here and now trying to pick of these 3 games the number 1 game?
Who would do it? Who would do that?
That just seems
no one.
Like a... Like, what
Fool's
would you
errand.
do? How would you do that? Come on. All right.
Pull out a gun.
Elden Ring, it was my pick, Vinny's pick. Tunic was Brad's pick, and Norco was Alex's pick. After a lot of debating, there were some really excellent looking games, both technical, artistic, and stylish of this year. But I think those are 3 really solid choices. Whew. Best look in the book. Best look in the book.
Mm-hmm.
We have one more category we're going to try and get to for today.
Yes.
It was a category. Can I set this one up? Can I spend a little time
Please
setting
do.
this up? It was a category we were like, do we include this as a main category? This one always gets weird. You know it. I love it. Everybody loves it. Everybody doesn't love it. It's the best.
You know I love
it's
it.
the best music category, and we all really wanted it in there, but it's so hard to present always. So
Yes.
we have decided that this category, Alex, you picked this for your personal category. What is it, for funsies?
For funsies.
Personal funsies category. So instead of debating the best music from this year, we are going to go and leave it to Alex. Alex, what is the best music?
Someone at home is going to get real mad because this is definitely going to lean toward my personal musical preferences, but that is the nature of what we're doing here.
This is your personal funsies.
It is my personal funsies. So I'm going to have you play a song from some of the ones that I think are the ones that are going to hang here.
Okay.
But before we get to those, I would like to just knock off some of these that I feel like are, hey, I want to highlight this, but it probably isn't in my actual top list.
Why don't you read the games that you've put on this list?
So all the games I have on here are Citizen Sleeper, Norco, Vampire Survivors, Elden Ring, Ollie Ollie World, Metal Hellsinger, Melatonin, Pentiment, Shredder's Revenge, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Splatoon 3, Trombone Champ,
It's okay.
Tunic, and Vampire Survivors again somehow. Not sure how I did that, but we only need one.
Really, really like it.
Trombone Champ is the spiritual winner, no matter the actual outcome here.
Yeah, Trombone Champ is not going to be on the final category here. I'll just say that right now. But I want to highlight the fact that they made the exact right choice for that game, which is they went and got a bunch of royalty-free music, did goofy MIDI versions of certain things and otherwise, but they created a soundscape that is perfect for the joke of that game, which is also pretty fun. It's not just a joke game, but they nailed the joke.
It's mostly a joke game. I don't know. I've seen some people out there starting to post like their perfect runs of really hard songs, which, like, yes, that is absolutely a feat mechanically to be able to pull that off. I feel like it's kind of losing sight of what is so amazing about the game.
Which is the joke.
Like, I respect your skill and everything, but I really want this to sound terrible.
Yes. And boy, it can sound really terrible. But shout out to Trombone Champ for doing a thing and nailing it.
Are you actually taking stuff on and off the list?
There's going to be like 5 or 6 games that stay on the final list. But there are some of these that I just wanted to briefly highlight and then take off. So that one can take off.
All right, I will take it off here.
I think you can take Pentiment off.
Okay.
It is a game where it has the right soundtrack for the mood they are setting and the era they are portraying. But it is not a soundtrack that I found myself ever really wanting to go seek out and listen to outside of the game.
Okay. Pentiment is off. And again, this is your personal list.
This is my personal pick. These are my personal picks. So yell at me. Don't yell at them.
Don't yell at me.
Ollie Ollie World and Melatonin are very much of a kind. It is of that kind of lo-fi beats and, jams to study and skate and fucking have weird melatonin dreams to. Both are good. And they are right for the game that they are in, but I don't think they stood out to me quite as much as some of the other ones. But they had really good music in them.
Okay, Ollie Ollie World and Melatonin have left the list. Okay,
2 more I'm going to knock off here, and then everything else is staying on.
Okay,
Shredder's Revenge, really good at doing the arcade music. They also, that fucking, that RZA song or Ghostface song is really good. I warmed up to the Mike Patton theme after a while.
Mike
Didn't
Patton?
love it at first.
The intro,
The theme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I know that?
I think we talked about that
I think we
before.
might have done that.
Mike Patton is doing the theme for that game.
Uh,
It's good. It's good stuff, but it is not in my top of the category.
okay. Shredder's Revenge coming off. All right.
And Splatoon 3, they made another Splatoon soundtrack. Those soundtracks are always good. It is just, I don't think there were quite as many bops on there for me as there were in previous ones.
Splatoon 3 off of Alex's music personal list here. Leaving.
The rest are staying.
Okay. What do you got?
Citizen Sleeper, Norco, Vampire Survivors, Elden Ring, Metal Hellsinger, Tunic.
Alex, would you like to showcase some songs for the folks and to illustrate why these 6 games are on your list?
Absolutely. For the start, let's just go from the top on down.
Okay.
And for Citizen Sleeper, why don't you pull up track 4, Matsutake?
Okay. Here we go. It's going to take me just a sec to find. So
By all means. We're not going to go through a whole listing party here. I'm going to pick a song for each one and I just have it underneath while I'm talking about it.
Okay.
Save ourselves a little bit of time here.
And music.
And opening a FLAC.
Sorry.
And,
That is my favorite aspect of this. Is that
and
we are bringing you this music in a lossless format, even though the podcast itself will be heavily.
Look, it's what I
enhanced.
have, okay?
okay. Hopefully this is
So-
coming through for everybody.
It is. So Citizen Sleeper, again, it's a very text-heavy game, and it has some really good character art, but I feel like a big part of what sets the mood in that game is kind of just the background beats and jams. This is actually not the track I was thinking of. I'm sorry.
You got a different one? Okay.
Try Yatagan, which is the one right before it.
Okay. You got it. Hold on. We've got a
It's not that song isn't good, it's just it's not
You've got
doesn't have quite as much of a beat to it.
another replacement. Here we go. Queuing up Yatagan. And take it away.
There it is. But yeah, you're on this space station, but it is a really, it is not a space station that is in good shape. And a lot of the community there and the people there are just sort of scraping by in this place that has been all but abandoned by the larger space infrastructure going on in the background. And so much of the vibe of this game, I think, is communicated through the music. Because again, there's no dialogue. So it is the soundtrack artist here primarily is Amos Roddy, and just it's one of those things where it's like I wanted to go and listen to this music after I was done playing the game.
I know this is your personal list, but it doesn't stop me from agreeing. This is a great soundtrack.
Yeah. For the next one here, I'm gonna go. Okay, so we have Norco up next. Let me see which track here I want you to play.
Okay.
There's a lot here. I mean, why don't you just bring up the overworld theme, Perish?
Okay. Hold
Actually, that might be too short. Well, actually, there's a couple of different parts of this soundtrack. Let's start with One Night in New Orleans,
Okay.
track 8.
Track 8. Thank you for the number. There are a lot of tracks on this.
Yeah, because this is a kind of a split soundtrack. Gugly is the main soundtrack artist, but also this band Thou, who are a sort of blackened death metal band from the South. They do a handful of tracks for this, and Thou is actually a band I really like a lot, so that helps my interest in it. But this is another game that is greatly aided by having a really thoughtful and meaningful sounding soundtrack to everything going on, because again, there is no voice acting. And while there is a little bit of a for every character that is distinctive for each person, I think the music really is the thing that kind of gives the emotional heft to much of the storytelling that's going on here.
Yep. Again, thumbs up on this one. Norco.
And if you want to just pull up one of those Thou tracks real fast, just do the very last one, View of a Burning City.
Okay. Which number is that?
43.
Okay.
It's a long soundtrack.
It's a long soundtrack. Okay.
This is really just my excuse to make you guys listen to some metal. I'm sorry.
Those are guitars?
Confirmed.
You can skip ahead a little bit. Or no, there it goes. But yeah, that was a very droney, very like slow heavy metal band. And that's kind of what I love about them. And this is also just my excuse to get everyone to go listen to the collaborative record they did with Emma Ruth Rundle last year, or 2 years ago, which is truly one of my favorite records of the last several years.
Norco, pretty good soundtrack, very good game.
Fantastic.
All right.
What do we got next on the list?
Vampire Survivors.
Oh man, there's so much we could jam out here on, but I'm gonna go with Reincarnated Echoes track 2.
Okay, hold on, let me pull that up. Sorry, Vampire Survivors.
So Danielle Zendara did the bulk of the soundtrack, but Filippo Vicarelli also did a good chunk of it, and also Will Davies did a handful of tracks. This is the most video game soundtrack of all the ones on my list.
It really is.
Like, this song would not sound out of place in a Castlevania game.
No.
And I think that is a thing you can say for a lot of this soundtrack, is that while they are definitely evoking that particular franchise, it's its own thing, and all of the music is pretty memorable on its own. It isn't just pastiche.
That's part of what I would say about this game technically being a clone of, like, it's not like this is the game to invent this genre, but it does have its own specific charm to it.
Yes.
Like, it is more than just a clone of other games. Like, there is, I mean, the sprites also look like they are out of an old Castlevania game, right? Like,
yes.
It looks like some kind of weird ROM hack in a way.
Totally.
Like, there is,
but maybe the best ROM hack of all time.
like, there's something about this game beyond it's just ripping off other Android games or whatever.
Yeah.
Any other tracks from here you want to get to?
Do you know which one is that? The very first one from the first level, like the first one that you just hear over and over.
Copper Green Intent is the one you want. Is the next track right after this one on the soundtrack.
You got it. Coming up, we got a special request for, was it Copper Green Intent?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, for how much you hear that song, it just doesn't get old.
Is this the one, Brad?
Is it?
There are a lot of songs on the soundtrack, by the way.
I think it's this one.
I don't think that's the first level music.
I'm going to play the first track on here, because I don't know if that's it, but
this is like a 5-second track, but sure.
Is this like the menu? Here we go.
Yes, that is definitely the menu.
Awesome.
It's fine. You don't have to find it. But the point is, the music fits the game very well, and for how many times you have to hear it loop over and over, it doesn't really wear out its welcome.
I want to play this one just because I like the name. It's track number 6. How do you pronounce this, Alex?
Vampire Survivors.
Okay. I don't know why it's called that, but I like the name of it.
It's like borderline, like northern Midwest, like, oh, Vampire Survivors.
All right, Alex, what else you got on your list?
We got a couple more here. Okay. We got a couple more. I want to get through here. Let's see. How about, what is the next one on the list?
The next one on the list is Elden Ring.
Vinny, I'm going to let you choose, because as much as I love this soundtrack, and this, we always joked about how we were all so bad about like actually loving orchestral soundtracks and stuff from these kinds of games. This one's amazing from top to bottom, and I feel like, but you also had the most time in this game, so you pick the track.
There are 67 tracks on this soundtrack.
Their soundtracks are always very long.
I'm gonna go with what I hope is the opening, because it says opening. Because
it is that track.
Is the best music in an opening maybe ever made, and it takes a little while to go, but I'm gonna let it go.
Let's just let it go. Because what a soundscape this game paints.
I love this thing when it kicks in.
Let it build.
Let it build.
Is this the intro movie music or the title screen?
The
music?
title screen, I think.
Oh, I think
maybe this is the.
I think this is the intro movie.
It sounds
music.
like the intro movie.
Oh, it might be the intro movie music.
This game definitely has my favorite From Software title screen.
Title screen.
Music.
That's what I'm looking for. What do you know?
Okay.
What that is called?
I don't.
I'm gonna go with just their
Probably-
first thing called Elden Ring.
Could be it.
Because that is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That is it.
That title screen theme does go hard.
It goes so hard. It doesn't take too long to get there.
Yes. Sorry. The title screen is what I wanted to play.
Yes.
The intro movie music also very good, but
Oh yeah, here it is. Yes, thank you. It's so good. It's still sending chills down my spine.
Oh yes, this is yes. It's that screech that's about to happen. Yes, that.
It's so good. I literally get like chills from it. It's so good.
me too. Me too.
This music is so fierce that I was sometimes afraid to boot the game up because I didn't know if I could handle hearing it before I could get into the game.
It is absolutely music that signals
Like-
you are in store for some shit.
I feel like this music just like grabs you about the shoulders and throttles you.
It's so good.
If I were narrowing this down to a top 3, there's no way this soundtrack would not be on there.
Yeah, it's really good. There's one more I just want to play on here because I don't remember it, but I remember the zone playing it the part a lot, so I just want to see if I recognize it.
Okay.
Let's sure. This is just says Melania Blade of Mikola, and I just did this fight a lot, so I'm wondering if I will recognize the music from it. A lot of these songs have a little lead up, so I might skip around.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely do. God, sorry for those listening that have played this and are now under their desk.
Having moments.
Yeah, just curled up in a ball. Yeah, I'm just going to skip around a bit. Yep, man, I got to turn it off. Sorry, I'm turning it off.
Flashbacks.
All right, we got 2 more here.
Okay.
Metal Hellsinger is the one on this list where I feel like the soundtrack actually outpaces the game in a lot of ways. I think Metal Hellsinger is an interesting concept for a game that's executed reasonably well, but I didn't love it. But I think for the kind of game they are trying to make and the specific vibe they are going for, the particular flavor of power metal they go for in this game is correct.
Well, do you have a particular track here you want me to
Let's
pull
go
up?
with track 5,
Okay.
Stygia, featuring Alyssa White Glues of Arch Enemy. You can skip ahead a little bit if you want, because it takes a minute for the vocals and stuff to kick in. There we go.
Nailed it.
But yeah, this game's flavor of metal is very much in that riff-heavy, like, very processed drums, very, like, soaring vocal style. Like, there's definitely some, like, death metal growls in there, too, but...
Metal Hellsinger.
Yeah. And, you know, for a game that is about, you know, demon just running roughshod through hell in a very rhythmic way, it works.
Yes.
There's your death metal growl.
Yes.
How do they do that?
You know, it's a technique, man, just like any other vocal style.
How do they not shred their throats?
Some of them do.
Alex, is there another one from here you wanted to play up?
Yeah, why don't you pull up, let's go with track 13.
13, lucky number 13.
Acheron featuring Randy Blythe of Lamb of God. It's a slightly different flavor.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they've been around for decades.
Yeah, this is a game I think I wanted to like more than I wound up liking.
It's a really interesting concept, and I think they do execute on it. It just, I didn't... At a certain point, I got kind of exhausted with it.
All right.
Let's at least wait until the vocals kick in, then we can kick out.
I hope everybody can hear this on the video. Hopefully it doesn't get muted. These are the tracks.
Yeah.
These are always the tracks that make me a little worried.
Yeah. All right, we can move from there. And the last one is Tunic.
Tunic
is up there for me.
Me too.
And there were not a ton of music standouts for me this year, but Tunic is way up there.
So this is a collaboration between Lifeformed and Janice Kwan. Neither of their work I am intensely familiar with, but the soundtrack they constructed for this game is phenomenal. Another game where I think the oral presentation is a huge factor in what makes it so interesting to pluck away at and exist in that world.
Do you have a particular track you want me to pull up here?
This is another one that has like 60 fucking songs on it. So I feel like anything from like the early goings, because that's probably what everyone has heard at least a little bit of, like Memories of Memories or Weight of Rain or any of that stuff.
Okay.
Memories of Memories is the one that stands out to me as like, you hear this a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Memories of Memories. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, like I can just see the camera like sort of twisting down toward the landscape as the song starts.
Yeah, this is a great soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure.
It's beautiful. And like, you know, I think there is an abundance of synth-wavy, kind of ethereal sounding indie game soundtracks out there. But this one really just like every little piece of music that would crop up like stood out in a way that was more than just background fodder.
Something really otherworldly to me about this music.
Yeah.
Like this very much feels like you are in another place now.
Yeah.
And it fits with the art style. It fits with like the nature of exploration in the game. Like all of it is just like, it's a concert, you know?
I could chill with this music for the rest of the episode.
Me too.
Yeah,
for sure.
There is like discordant stuff in here. I don't know them by name, but do you mind if I try one?
Yeah, try for it.
Okay.
Like I said, there's a lot of music on here.
There is a lot, and some of it gets a little darker, which I actually really enjoyed in the game, but I don't know them by name, so I'm just going to try and guess by what they're titled here.
This is the Wrong Way is one.
Yeah, let me pull that up. Do you know what number that is, Brad?
11.
Okay.
I have the soundtrack in my library.
Okay. Again, there are a lot of tracks on this soundtrack. Okay, this is The Wrong Way.
Games are long, and you need a lot of music to fill them out.
Yeah, like this kind of stuff. It's a little darker.
Yeah, you can definitely feel yourself at the bottom of a well.
Yeah.
Discovering that there's some dank dungeon down there that you can't see anything in. Type stuff. Very, very I am in the depths, Zelda type stuff.
So Tunic.
Yeah.
Tunic.
So I was fast forwarding a little bit to get
if I had to pick a soundtrack this year, that would probably be my pick.
Alex, do you have anything you want to exceptionally call out from these, or have you made your call out?
Do I have a winner is basically what you're asking?
No. I mean, listen, they're all very good, but which one would, if you had to pick one right now, just because I'm asking, which one would you put on and listen to?
It's really between Norco and Vampire Survivors for me, with Tunic being a very close third.
Okay.
But the thing is, I wanted to listen to all of these soundtracks throughout the year, is at various points outside of the games. And that is kind of my main criteria for whether a game soundtrack is either just good for the game or something special. And I think all of them were like, these are all soundtracks where I'm like, I wanted to listen to this completely irrespective of their placement within these video games. I think I probably lean toward Norco overall, just because, I mean, look, I'm very in the tank for that game. I don't know if that's coming across or not.
I'm getting that vibe.
But I think Vampire Survivors is like, it's like 1A and 1B. You know what I mean?
Yes. So that is Alex's music category, his personal funsies category. Citizen Sleeper, Norco, Vampire Survivors, Elden Ring, Metal Hellsinger, and Tunic all on that list. Great soundtracks this year.
Wonderful music. And I went into this category not necessarily feeling like, am I going to have a lot of games for this? Am I really going to... Is there going to be enough here for a fill out a category? And by the time I was like, fuck, there were some amazing goddamn soundtracks that I spent a lot of time listening to this year. How did I forget about this?
We are going to wrap up this day's award show or celebration, let's say, of video games. I'm going to recap what we have here, starting with Best Storytelling, where Alex and I picked Norco and Brad picked the Atari 50, the anniversary celebration for Best Storytelling. And I get it. Next, I had my personal category, which was FMV and or point-and-click adventure games that are for cool people. On that list were The Quarry, Immortality, The Centennial Case, The Shijima Story, The Dark Pictures Anthology, The Devil in Me, The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, Return to Monkey Island, Norco, and Not for Broadcast were all on that list. If you like those types of games, go check them all out.
It was a good year for those.
It was a good year for those. Moving down the list, we had Best Game We Came Back To. Again, those are games that we kind of wandered back to, whether it's because of DLC, a 1.0 release, or just because we wanted to. We all unanimously, Alex, Vinny, and Brad, picked Grounded on Grounded's 1.0 release, and they keep going. More updates to come. Next, we had Brad's personal category, The Hard Game Club. Brad had Rogue Legacy 2, Vampire Survivors, Hyper Demon, Neon White, Cuphead DLC, and the Callisto Protocol. Brad, you didn't single out anything on that list, right?
Not really.
They're all wonderfully hard games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going back.
I was thinking about it.
Callisto Protocol is the one that is like, I mean, most of these are just hard, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that you can get good enough at and also exploit enough with upgrades and such that I feel like I used the phrase breaking it over my knee on the podcast.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a particular type of joy with a hard game, is feeling like you have put it in its place.
Okay, so the Callisto Protocol of the Hard Game Club is one that you could...
It's just one to call out, I wouldn't say.
One that you can put over your knee and give a little spank.
That's right.
Little spank.
That's right. Don't make me go out in the backyard and get the electrified baton.
It's upgraded. It's fully upgraded. Best Look. This encompassed all of the visual aspects of what you might expect from a best visuals category. I picked Elden Ring. That's I, Vinny. Brad picked Tunic, and Alex Norco. So we went from unanimous voting to divergent voting, but all very good games for Best Look. Finally, in Alex's music category, he had Citizen Sleeper, Norco, Vampire Survivors, Elden Ring, Metal Hellsinger, and Tunic. And I forget what you said. Side A was Vampire Survivors, and side B was Norco. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean 1A, 1B.
Yeah,
you know, whichever order you want to put those on the tape.
1A, 1B. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Flip the record over. It's Vampire Survivors or Norco. That is going to do it for our first of two-parter. Next episode, we will have 2 more categories and then our top 10 games of the year with a winner. I'll just say those 2 categories because they're in the sidebar here on the video, so you can probably get to them. Most insidious time sink and game we most wish had come out this year. And then we'll have our top 10 games for 2022. Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
We're going to get back to it. Tune in next week for the rest of these categories. See you, everyone. And of course, we want to give a special shout out to our mysterious benefactors over at patreon.com/Nextlander who get a shout out on this here show on the podcast, which this is. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Midsize Voodoo You-Do, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Thorpe Stay Healthy Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Raz Grizz, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Kevin Villado, Randy Duax, Andrew Teepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Cheek, Andrew Slosky, Michael Jonathan Black, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. You're all our Game of the Year. And thanks everybody for supporting us over at patreon.com/Nextlander.